My name is Rich, and in this video, we're going to talk about me trying to buy my first new EV, and then ending up driving over 12 hours to confront the shady dealership that tried to scam me out of thousands of dollars. So buckle up. It's okay, it's just not for me, with a leather bra over it. That being said, there's only one truck that I'm interested in right now. It's the Rivian. I really like the design, and there's so few of them on the road that they're actually cool and not mainstream yet, so I can be a black hipster for a few years before everyone else get one, and I slowly start to hate it. I also want to support them. Now, I understand that buying the first model year vehicle is typically a bad idea, and there'll be issues down the road, but please know this. If no one bought a Rivian because they were too scared and wanted to wait until the next version, then the company wouldn't make it to see the next generation truck in the first place. Early adopters are crucial to a company's success, and I want to support this cool new company. I mean, if a car with two giant Dyson fans drove by, you'd probably want to invest in it too. So yeah, I decided to buy a Rivian, and I will say the best part about owning a Rivian is flexing on Tacoma, Honda Ridgeline, and Ford Ranger owners. Oh, you think paying 50 grand for a comparable gas truck is bad? Wait till you see my Rivian. I paid double the price for the same truck. Well, Rich, I don't get it. Double the price? Aren't Rivians like 80 grand? Yes, but no. You see, they had a price hike, making them more expensive, and if you want one now, you'll have to spend an additional $20,000 more. Now, some people are asking $115,000, but they're higher than Giraffe. So Rivian is marketed as an adventure vehicle. Let's go on the first adventure, buying one. So I looked at a car and it had the wheels I liked and the utility bars. It was expensive, like very expensive, like $98,500 expensive, which is a lot of money, but I sold my RS7, Humvee, and Tacoma, so it made the purchase a little bit easier to swallow. Then I called them the next day and I said, hi, I'm very interested in the Rivian you have for sale. They said, awesome, thanks for the interest. Let me talk to my manager and let's make a deal. Now I got a call back in 15 minutes saying, are you ready to purchase it? I said, yes. When I refreshed the page, I saw something. The price had increased to over $101,000. Then I asked, was this a mistake? The price went up. They said, yes, our price was too low. Too low? They were already $20,000 over MSRP. Now here comes the fun part. Check out the text messages exchanged with the dealership, and it's a good one. I told him they raised the price in front of me, and I'm willing to pay the original price. Then he proceeded to tell me it's still a great deal because it has the max battery pack. And if you aren't familiar with Rivians, the max battery pack doesn't exist yet, and it's a $16,000 option when they start rolling them out. Eventually. Now I said, if you can show me on the truck on the screen where it says it has the max pack, I will give you your asking price plus a $500 bonus for you personally. They sent me a message where they said they talked to someone from Rivian and confirmed it had the max pack, which I didn't really believe, but you know what? I saved them some time. This is what the inside of the truck looks like. You said the truck was more money because it has the max pack. Since it doesn't have the max pack according to the truck itself, will you lower the price again? The response was, don't worry, Richard, we attached the numbers for $6,000 less than what we discussed. Cool, awesome. Let's go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. I opened the document, it's even more. Now we went back and forth and finally he dropped his price to $103, which is still more than what we advertised before. And he said, you know what? You can still press the buy it now for $101.50, which again is the same price, which I fell out of my chair. When I got back in my chair, I got another text that said, after thinking about this, you could press buy it now for $99.5, which is still more than the original price. So the plan, I'm gonna drive 12 hours to confront them of their shady business practices in my new Rivian because I'm petty like that.
Gotcha.
Anyways, I found a Rivian in my ideal color and spec, the wheels I wanted, along with the color I wanted, primer gray. If you didn't know it, I love primer gray. Unfortunately, the truck I found is located in New Jersey. So let's get ready to go to New Jersey. Now, before you bring a new EV home, you have to make sure that your charging infrastructure is up to snuff, and unfortunately, mine was not. I installed the Tesla charger a couple years ago, and it died after a year and a half in service. So I got a new one that supports 80 amps worth of charging, and it's bulletproof, literally bulletproof. I don't live in the ghetto anymore, so I don't know why I would need a bulletproof charger, but it's good to know it's there just in case. Then I dropped my lovely children off at school in the Porsche, which my daughter hates.
You're stupid!
The car's not stupid.
I hate it!
Then I head back home for some necessities that I'll need on the road, including my security ducky blanket. It kind of takes up a lot of room, and I'll need room for other stuff, so I'm gonna forget that for now. Then I head to the shop for some last-minute checks. Now, I didn't want to hear what this dealership was telling me, kind of like how I didn't want to hear the constant exhaled breath of Darth Vader that the Rivian does when you take it out of park as a pedestrian courtesy. But I have a solution to things I don't want to hear, and I don't look like I'm wearing Q-tips cut in half either. Yes, looking for a holiday gift? Check out Raycons. Get 30% off by shopping their holiday bundles of wireless earbuds, headphones, and speakers. They offer premium sound, useful features, and are almost available on Raycon. Then I hop in the Uber and go to the airport to head to New Jersey. Hop off the plane, then head to what's probably one of the worst airports I've ever been to, and I'm not lying. Let me just Google it. Look, it is the worst airport in the United States. Who knew? Let's head to the bank.
What is the brand?
It's called Rivian.
It's called Rivian.
Rivian, yeah.
This is the new. I never hear it.
Brand new. They just came out. Yeah, there's not that many on the road.
See this guy's trying to be
And
cool.
who do this?
It's a new company.
New company.
He also told me he had an R1S, which is the SUV version, but I didn't believe him because he was from New Jersey. But it turns out he was right. He did have a matching R1S. Beautiful. This is a How do you? This is beautiful, man. This is crazy. And the back, let me open the back real quick. What happened? Oh, it's a split one. Oh, so that folds down too separately? Oh, okay. So there's still a lot of room back here too.
Yeah, these all fold. I haven't really.
I know you have. Yeah, I can tell. You're just like, oh yeah, it's cool. Man, this is, well, the inside's the same. From the front end up's the same. Man, this is crazy.
So the SUV is 18 inches shorter than the truck.
It is.
So essentially what the gear tunnel takes up?
Yeah.
Gear tunnel's a little bit than 18 inches.
Right.
But this is the size of an Escalade.
It is?
It is, yeah. That's a fact.
You can't even tell.
If you look at it, it's hard to gauge it.
Right. I guess you're right, yeah. Okay, so he's leaving. I bought the truck. Now what? Literally, this is a crash course. I'm assuming that's navigation. Let's go to North Carolina. Let's see how long this takes. Right now I'm in New Jersey. Let's see how long this takes to figure stuff out. It's calculating the route. Okay, there's some charging areas there. It's gonna tell me what to do. Maybe behind a Ford dealership, I'm not really sure. The place is run down. This is an old library, and I don't see a wall adapter anywhere. So this is the public library. I think I'm kind of boned here. Well, I guess thank you, public library. Ouch. Lesson learned. I just paid a 6-mile penalty for this. Okay, next update. I found an inn that has a J1772. Hopefully there's a free spot. It looks like it has 2 available spots, but here's the problem. I think in order to charge there, you have to be a guest at the hotel. So this is gonna get really awkward. It's an inn, so it's really small. There's not really enough places to figure stuff out. So I very well may have to stay at this inn. So I was actually looking on an app on my phone, and you guys are one of the only places that have electric vehicle charging in a very large radius. So I understand that you probably have most people being patrons of the hotel, but is there any way that I could possibly pay you to charge just for like maybe an hour and a half?
You don't have to pay us. All you gotta do is let us know you're coming, and it's there for your use.
You know what? I'm actually already here.
Are you? All right.
Yeah.
My truck is in front of you.
I see your F-150 right there. Beautiful truck.
That's me.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let me come out and get it out of the way, and you're welcome to charge up.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you for allowing me to charge here.
Yeah.
You're a fellow electric EV person would know.
Oh, yeah.
The cool thing is I put in the Tesla tap adapter. Now I'm getting 24 miles an hour as opposed to just 15. So that's really, really, really good. Hang this up. The owner of the bed and breakfast told me to go to a pub. There's a pub right there. Do you think I belong in a pub? Dude, you're Rich Bill. He's like the car guy. He builds cars. Not really. Yeah, I'm just glorified mechanic. That's all. That's pretty cool. Thank you. It's about 10 o'clock at night, and this is my first experience with EV. Oh, I did EV Go last time. Oh yeah, EV Go hasn't been bad. Let's see what they got for this thing. 50 miles at 182 miles an hour. Not ideal, but I'll tell you, man, this is at times like this, you wish you were in a Tesla, because I left at 6%. Now it's at 17% after God knows how long, and it only added 34 miles. So I'm gonna be here for a while. Yeah, this is a joke.
Dude came and I was like, damn, what kind of truck is that? Right. And I was telling you, I said, I think that's one of the truck. Then I seen the one you did this, I guess this dude had a problem with his Tesla, kind of like fixed the batteries, like y'all repaired that with Tesla, and like tax his ass for it. But you say you did? This one like
No. I had a different one. I was driving a different one. My shop in West Palm Beach.
I was on Ocean Ave in Lantana.
You want to see it? You want to see inside? Let me give you the tour. Trunk. That's how you charge it.
Oh my God.
You wanna go for a ride?
Yeah. I want to ride.
All right, let's go. Good morning. Daytime is upon us. I gotta say, I'm probably never gonna stay at a Best Western again. It was really late last night. It was only $100 for the room, but you have to set your expectations. There's some blood stains on the lampshade. That USB port broke my phone. I think there's definitely an STD of some kind in there. This filter has never been changed, ever. That's never been changed. There's some kind of flaking on the ground. I don't know what that is. And then there's this stain that's been here. I don't know what that stain is. Also, the tub, I took a shower. Don't know why. The drain wasn't working, so I kind of stood in my own filth for a little while. So that's my quick review of a Best Western. If you only have $100 and you need a place to stay, set your expectations to low. The next hotel I stay in, I'll probably spend like 110 or 120, and then maybe have no blood stains on my lampshades. Okay, so we're back in the truck. I just got finished eating at a local place. I didn't want to eat the breakfast, the free continental breakfast they give you at the Best Western, because I wanted to support the local businesses in the area. And when I had the food, I ate it. It was the worst food I've ever had in my life. It was the worst meal I've ever put into my body, and I will never forget it. The food was awful. And the thing is the woman that served me, the waitress, she was pregnant. She's probably like 12 months pregnant. And I gave her like a 50% tip. And I'm not some big baller. The bill was like, it was like $20, so relax for a second. And I did that. And the thing is, I want to talk about EV adoption, okay? I'm in Elizabeth County, somewhere in North Carolina. There's clapped out Nissan Maximas. There's 24 clapped out Escalades in this parking lot. My question for you is, EV adoption in this area, it's not a thing. When you say that in 2035, we're going to ban the sale of new gas cars, like, you live in a bubble. These are the people. When I showed up here, they have never seen an electric vehicle before. They've seen Teslas maybe on TV. They've literally never seen an electric car. They have Hellcats here. They have Altimas. They have clapped out BMW 740s. That's the thing. Like, you live in a bubble. So to say that someone's going to go out and buy one of these trucks or buy another car and charge behind a Walmart for an hour and a half, they're not going to do it. The average price of an EV right now, the average sale price of an EV is, I think, $68,000, almost $70,000. The average car price is half that. So when you say, oh, we got to have these cars on the road, it's fun for me to do these things because I can afford the inconvenience. It's okay for me to drive a Rivian and sit behind some sketchy gas station for 2 hours, because for me, it's fun and I have nowhere to go, okay? But when you're spending this kind of money on a vehicle, people that have these vehicles generally have other cars as well. Electric cars are not cheap. What I'm trying to say is, we're not really there yet in terms of pricing. The people here, between a clapped out Nissan Maxima and 27 clapped out Escalades, they're not going to suddenly buy a Nissan Leaf because it makes sense, because it kind of doesn't. When charging on the road in this truck, it wasn't that far off by how much it would cost for a similarly equipped, efficient gas truck. So I don't know what the point of this was, but thank you for listening. This was fun. Thank you. Okay, now I'm heading to my second charging stop. Now I'm heading to the first charging spot after the hotel. I have 47 miles of range left, and it's preparing the battery for fast charging. I'm about 30 minutes away, and it's 27 miles. I'll report back to let you guys know how many miles of range I have when I get there. But I'll tell you right now, the range reporting is actually very accurate on the Rivian R1T. All right, I'm going to my next charging stop right now. I think it's at the DoubleTree by Hilton in a marina. So, if you look carefully, there's a lot of, if you look carefully, where there's money, there's electric vehicle charging. If you don't have any money, well, All right, it's a charge point and it is available. So that was almost a risky move. I thought that guy was parked in an electric vehicle spot. But this just shows how important it is because this is the only electric vehicle charging spot in a very, very, very long distance. So if I had that guy plugged in that spot and another person that would ice the location, as they say, ice, it would really, really, really suck if that were to happen. And I wouldn't be able to charge and I wouldn't be able to get anywhere. At the same time, I'm not going to bitch about it on the internet because I'm a man and I take my losses. Okay, so here's the thing. It started charging already. 2 hours remaining, 5 miles added. Okay, that's the rate. But here's the thing. It's the charge rate. I guess I was expecting a better charge rate. It's 174 miles an hour. And I'm kind of like, that's okay. Like, where are these ultra fast chargers that people are talking about? Maybe they're in California or something, but I'm not really seeing much in the Northeast. Actually, this isn't the Northeast anymore. I'm not really seeing much here anymore. So, yeah, not a really great speed. And this is where the Teslas truly shine. You could go to a supercharger and be done in a matter of minutes, and this is going to take a while. But again, it's a venture vehicle, and this is an adventure, so I'm going to venture out and see what adventures await. This is what I'm talking about. It's been literally 5 minutes, and it's $9, and I have 3 hours left. How much is this going to cost me after 3 hours? Okay, I just want to say I take back everything I said negative about this gear tunnel. I know in one of the Rivian videos that I didn't like it, and I actually wanted a bigger bed, but this gear tunnel is a lifesaver. All the things that are dirty, like, you know, the cleaning cloths and the cleaning solutions could go in there, because you don't want them inside of the truck. I wish we had a bigger bed, but actually this is a decent sized bed to get things done. But my main point in all this is this. Look at this real quick. This vehicle is at 27%, and it's $23, $24, just by saying I'm am I missing something? Is there a setting I'm supposed to change on this to make it not do that? Because with this logic, this is gonna cost me damn near $75 to fill this thing up. I was under the impression that EVs were supposed to be better than their gas counterparts. This is... I love this truck so much, I don't even care. But this is the funny part. Like, don't go into this. Do not buy one of these pickup trucks, these electric pickup trucks, thinking you're gonna end up saving money. Because the overwhelming majority of trucks this size are more efficient than this electric truck. This electric truck screams efficiency because it's electric, and electric motors are way more efficient than their gas counterparts. But this is not saving any money at all in terms of charging. When you're charging on a trip, this is very expensive. Now it's gonna be $25 in a second. This is an extremely expensive charge bill, and if you keep having to do this, this isn't much better than a gas truck. This is actually incredible. So the moral of the story is, if you're gonna charge as much as you can at home, or find a friend that you could charge at. When you're charging on the road, on a road trip, this is absolutely insane how inefficient this is. At the same time, I do not give a damn, because I love this truck so much, I'm willing to look past a lot of this stuff. This thing is just beautiful. I don't care how inefficient it is. Keep in mind, I drive a diesel truck that gets less miles per gallon than this, but this gives way more miles per gallon. A bum. Self-confidence or reassurance in a demanding situation. And I'll tell you right now, this situation is very demanding, because this cost me $77 total. It thinks it added 340 miles of range. It did not. Let's see what it really added. Yeah, 249 miles.
Hard.
I don't like working on the weekends. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I know. Life is so hard.
It's so hard for you.
Come on. Stop. Come on. Come on.
I think he's called Stanley.
Two. I don't trust. There we go. Come on.
There we go, Stanley. Nice job, Stanley. Nice job, Stanley. Watch the truck. Ooh, ooh.
So you know how your butt is gonna hurt?
Yeah. Your butt's gonna hurt too?
They already do. They're not already.
You know, I was never into horseback riding, but suddenly I'm into horseback riding. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at my brother's house right now. I have about 162 miles of range, and I'm headed to a Courtyard Marriott because I see they have a J1772 free charging there. So I'm gonna drop the truck off at the Marriott, charge, go to the gym, and then see how many miles I have when I get back. Now, the reason why I didn't charge at my brother's house last night is because he only charges at 110, and it'd be almost a waste of time to do that. It'd probably charge at like 3 miles an hour. By the time he woke up, there wouldn't be much there. The J1772 would be a lot faster charging, and he doesn't have to pay for it. So let's plug it in. Okay, let's see what charging infrastructure they're using here. They're using GEs. Let's see what happens. I hope it's free. If it's not, that's gonna suck. Please ask front desk agent for assistance. Okay, that is charging. This thing is giving me zero information. This is the oldest, most antiquated system I've ever seen in my life. Let's see what the charge rate is. I can't even imagine. 9 miles an hour. Okay, that's not bad. So by the time I'm done, I should have 18 miles, I guess. Better than nothing. Oh boy. That very nice gentleman just informed me that the charging station is only for guests. So this was fun. So let me get this straight. It's guests only, but no one's here. No one is staying at your hotel. No one's staying at your hotel. Why is it guests only? No one's here. No one owns an EV here. Hi, how are you today? So I have an electric car, and there's no other charging stations around here except for your hotel.
There's actually down the road.
Oh, there is. Where?
KFC.
KFC? Perfect. Thank you very much. Is it? Where's the KFC? Is it down this way?
Yeah.
That way. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so again, this is the problem. This is what I'm saying. They won't let me charge there. Again, there's no one at this hotel. No one is staying at this hotel. The reason why this is funny to me is because I have nowhere to go. I have nowhere to go. If you're a person that's traveling on a long distance trip, no one's talking about this. Everyone's blowing fairy dust on EVs like it's the best thing in the world. This is garbage. I have to follow my brother. I came down to show him this cool new truck, and now we're rolling the earth like peasants, like lemmings.
okay, looking for charging stations, and there's nothing around here. So the people that say, oh, let's ban EVs, gas card by 2035, step your game up.
I'm sorry about that mini temper tantrum there, guys, but I finally found a place to charge the truck. Now today, we have to drive 127 miles to Cary, North Carolina to finally see that dealership selling that truck for an insane markup and lying about what features it has. But before we go there, I want to stop and get my favorite meal, an entire chicken on a plate with lettuce. Unfortunately, I could not record this portion in terms of audio at the dealership because there was copyrighted music playing in the background. But where we left off last time at the dealership was that I asked them to take off the fact that the car had the max pack because it did not have that, and that would make me feel a lot better. When I got to the dealership, unfortunately, it still had the $16,000 max pack option. And here's what happens with that. I understand that mistakes do happen occasionally, and the form that the dealership may have got from whatever internet site may have listed the max pack as an option. Unfortunately, that doesn't hold true for two reasons. One, they're charging an upcharge on pricing because they think it has the max pack. And number two, that also affects the end user because the end user believes they're getting a truck that has over 400 miles of range. After I explained all this to them in full detail, they asked me if I was still interested in purchasing the vehicle. I said, well, our last conversation stated that you had well over 20 leads on this car, and here we are a week later, and the truck is still here. After that point in the conversation, they asked if I was still interested in purchasing a vehicle on their premises, and if that wasn't the case, they would ask me kindly to leave, which I did. I didn't want to cause a scene at all. It wasn't really worth it, but I just want to spread the message out there. If you're buying one of these vehicles, buyer beware. They do not come with the max pack. I'm just trying to save you guys some money. This is nice, man. Yeah, it's a carbon. What is this? This is like carbon. Oh, it was carbon fiber. I thought it was. This is cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, this is nice. No, this is beautiful, man.
You show my wife.
Yeah, she might like it.
Really?
Majority of the stops since North Carolina have been fine so far. There's only one that gave me a little bit of trouble, but I moved over to one stall and it charged the truck absolutely fine. Also, fun fact, Georgia is beautiful, by the way. Please stay tuned for word from our sponsor. And I don't want to get trapped in this like that ever again. That was not fun.
The incident.
Yeah.
Yes!
We have a new device that'll help us in case we do get stuck again. The new jacketing box. Isn't it great? It's 2160 watt out, $1,000. Oh. Again, the FCM.
I know you don't see many African Americans on my channel, but I was able to find one.
I was able to find one. Thank goodness. Sorry, it's been a long time. Fellow African American person, where are you right now? What are you doing for me?
Hi, I'm Carlo Knight. I'm the owner and specialist over at Platinum Custom Car Care in Ocala, Florida.
All right, what are you taking care of me right now?
We're going to install PPF on your rear end.
Okay.
We're going to do a full front on it so that you don't get rock chips and different things driving straight down the road. So we're going to do the A-pillars, the bumper, the fender, the hood, and we're going to do the top part of the roof because that's also impacted driving straight down the road too.
Let's take a look at it. Carlo, if you can, every maybe minute and a half or so, can you just say my name is Carlo?
Okay.
Because people might think you're me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? People get confused. There's one guy, I had this black guy on the channel once, right? No joke. I got up to get something from the bathroom and I had him sit down in the chair instead, like as a joke. No one said anything. They didn't know us apart.
I had somebody do a U-turn at Chris' shop one day, thought I was you.
Really?
They were driving down the road, they saw me standing outside, and they came back and said, is Rich here?
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You see the face you just made?
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
So Sam and I are enjoying our time in Florida, and this rental Tesla said, lane departure avoidance features unavailable. What else? Regenerative braking, reduced. Since I put it on most def instead of doing that, Sam, what do you think? Stability control disabled?
Rich, I'm still in awe as to why you had to choose a Tesla as your rental car when you literally have to travel all around the state right now. He's like, I gotta go to a supercharger real quick. Yeah. And then we can't leave it on the supercharger. I'm gonna get idling fees. It doesn't make, well, in this specific use case, it makes no sense. I get it, this is a rental Tesla.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever.
So there was a Hyundai. Were you not good enough for the Hyundai or what? There was a Hyundai that was actually cheaper.
It didn't have leather. That's the problem, Sam.
Are you serious right now?
This is a fine automobile.
I think so, yeah.
It's a very nice automobile, actually.
Yeah.
Freddie, what do you have going on in the shop today?
We have quite a bit going on in the shop. You see a car here, you see a car there, there's a car over there. We got plenty of cars.
What's your favorite product you're working on right now, Freddie?
So the favorite project of mine is the ones that aren't here because they're finished.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't have any of those.
I figured as much.
Yeah, okay. So right now we have the Ferrari 430 Scuderia. That's going to SEMA. Then we have an Audi R8 that used to be Tyler
That looks
Hoover's.
familiar. Okay.
Yeah, that's the worst one.
Okay.
Then we have a Noble. Some people might know what that is. Some people don't. So that's a car. BMW M3 that's getting everything done to it. Mercedes S65 AMG.
I remember that.
McLaren 665 LT.
Is that the most expensive car you own?
It is. Yeah, that's why it's up there and that's why it's covered up.
On a tender. I like
On
it.
a tender. That's right, because those batteries are expensive.
Wait a minute. No. I thought the Fast and Furious were making it more.
It's probably worth more.
Yeah.
But that one cost me the
Out
most.
of pocket more. Gotcha.
Yeah, out of pocket.
Noted.
We have a Mazda RX-7 FD with a bunch of anime stuff on it. We have a Renault Alpine, I believe it's an A910. Then we have a Toyota Supra over there with no engine, a Mitsubishi.
That's your pride and joy.
Yes, that, I mean.
So you asked me a question earlier. You said, why do you keep your Z06? It's loud, it's jarring, the interior is terrible. Why do you keep the 3000 GT?
Because it was the nicest car that I had bought up to that point when I lived in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And
New Jersey?
It's pretty bad. But I really like that car. I love the aesthetic of that car. And they only made 287 of those cars.
Is that the VR4?
VR4, 99, last year they made them.
Is that the one that's not the Spider though, right?
No.
Okay.
No, Spider they only made 96 and 95, 96.
Gotcha. Good.
But,
I don't remember. I remember that Supra, but not the blue one.
Yeah, so this is another one that I got. Used to be a black one. It's a right-hand drive one. I actually got that car for free and then completely redid everything. So now that has the engine out of my white one. Right. It's going to have custom interior, custom everything.
So what's the white one going to have?
That I'm building an engine for.
Look at you.
So look at that.
What do you have a lot going on here?
It's a little much.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Also, there's a Lambo over there. That
Wait, that's your twin turbo one, right?
Yeah, twin turbo,
Nice.
Gated, manual, Gallardo. No big deal.
No biggie. All right. Well, thanks for showing me around. I appreciate this. There's a lot going on, so I'm gonna leave. Thank you.
Was that it?
Thank you so much.
Where are you going?
You're the best. Thank you.
Where are you going? I don't have insurance on that car.
What did we do today over the last couple of days?
We installed PPF.
Yep.
On the full front of this vehicle, we did the hood, the fenders, the bumpers,
Yep.
the A pillars, the mirror caps, the B and C pillars, and we also did the rocker panels to protect it from getting rock chips and any road rash from rocks. We also installed PPF on all the lights so they have a nice tinted look to them to give it a different look.
Perfect.
We did that, and we also did full ceramic tint on it, including the windshield as well. And we also did a 2-year ceramic coating on the entire painted surfaces and all the plastics as well too.
Okay.
So this vehicle is protected and ready to go. And back here, we also did detail lights too as well. They're all PPF and they're smoked with 35%, just like the front is as well too.
All right, this looks fantastic. Thank you very much, man. This looks excellent.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Look at that. That's one tender. Inflation is a rich.
It really is, Sam. Hey, there's a no eating in the truck rule. I got this truck.
I'm starving. I've stopped at about 4 different charging stations with you between this Rivian and the rental Tesla. And even the guy that rented you the Tesla was like, oh, I've got a better range one. And your cheap ass didn't get it.
I didn't know. He wanted more money. If he wanted $6 a day more.
Rich?
Yep.
Can't do that, man.
All right.
Good on Rivian as a good capitalistic company to make 6 figures from you.
Yep.
Well, they didn't make 6 figures. The guy that flipped it to you made some money. And Rivian probably lost a lot of money.
I think they did, yeah. Andre. Okay.
Rich, I swear, I bought a Honda Ridgeline one time for $3,500.
Yeah.
This is the same exact size.
Okay.
It has the same exact features in the bed where like you flip it up and there's like a storage compartment. If I bought a Honda Ridgeline, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 $15 cameras. I don't know what 7 times 15 is, but you guys do the math.
You can have a Rivian.
4 LED light bars for about $79.99. We can make ourselves the great value Rivian.
Yeah, why don't we? We should.
But the expensive part will be these here. These are really, really sharp. I like when a company comes out and they don't just grab a wheel design, like Tesla, they just grab the wheel design. I want to say those turbine wheels were originally
another car.
Either a Mercedes-Benz or Volkswagen. But anyway, it's easy enough to grab a wheel or borrow a wheel from another manufacturer. These are sharp. I haven't seen these. And they come with some nice all-terrains and the car drives really good.
Thank you, Sam.
Otherwise, Rich, what can I say? This is a Hyundai Santa Cruz. What do they call it? Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
This is a Honda Ridgeline. This is a GMC Canyon.
Yeah, a Tacoma.
Toyota Tacoma. That's a little nicer than this. It's all those cars. And you could buy all of those for about a quarter of the price of this.
Yeah.
But if you got to have an iPad in the middle of the cabin, you buy yourself a Rivian. And Rich, I know you can't deal without your iPad.
Thank you very much, Sam. Very, very nice of you. Thanks, Sam.
Like it's slightly above average quality.
Thank you, Sam. My thing here. Oh, there's a cord. Hey, Jared.
Oh, hey, Rich.
How goes it, my friend?
How'd you find the place? I found it in the trash.
Really?
Yeah, it was just sitting piled with a bunch of boxes on it, so I took it home.
Okay, cool. Well, you can keep it if you want.
No, I saw you had a truck, so I think that'll fit perfect.
That's actually a glamour truck. I actually don't put things in the bed.
Okay, well, you can tow with it, right? Because we know EVs are
great for towing.
Yeah, long distance towing.
I could lose half my range. How about we ship it? We'll just ship it, all right?
I heard that's probably why it was in the trash.
Hey, good. It's working.
Single gauge in there?
No.
What? It's not. Doesn't have the off-road package.
So am I straight now?
Right. One more. A little more. Right. Little. There you go. That's straight.
Okay. I'm gonna go slower than I ever have before.
Can you do that in an electric truck?
I hope so. Ready?
All right. All right. It's working. It's a little tight, but it's working. We're going in. I imagine as soon as we can put the rear on it, we'll drop it, right?
Am I good?
All right, a little more. A little more. Okay, right there. All right, put her in park, hold it, and then I'll lower the bucket. Because you'll need to push the rear slightly, come to where I'm at.
Yep.
Man, this is working out just fine.
Okay, well, let's not celebrate just yet.
So you're just gonna have to push her.
Yeah.
And I'll.
So it doesn't. Okay, gotcha.
Details.
That's too long, guys. This is obnoxiously long. Hold on. People stuff on behalf of the event. I know you guys, if they haven't forgotten, just DM me how much we need to reimburse you, and I'll make a spreadsheet, okay? Very important. Don't lose money on this, okay? We did our very best to make this affordable. Okay, without further ado now,
How we doing tonight, guys? An actual no audio troll in the live audience. We got one guide in person. Do they have audio? Cool. Just curious, how many of you guys were here for the last canvassing event we did for the last runoff in Georgia? Okay, cool. Awesome. So a few returning faces, a lot of new faces. That's awesome. I think I got baited into this event by I'm Really Important, so thanks for him for getting me to commit to doing this. Wait, hold that applause, because that motherfucker did not show up here, okay? He did not show up here, okay? No, but thank you for him. A couple streamers did, though. I think we had, oh my god, I almost had your pixie. She's standing right out there. That's right. Cherry, we have Cherry, who showed up. I'm trying to call out all the Pixie's here somewhere. I don't know if Aaron doesn't count as a streamer yet. Where is Ruminate at? Ruminate showed up and back. Ruminate, did you do all 4 shifts? All 4 shifts. Nice job. So obviously, we did all of this on really short notice. So a lot of credit goes to Matt and Sejin for. Okay, stop clapping and everything. Okay, let me finish a fucking sentence. Okay, before you You guys have way too much energy now. I'm pretty sure we're breaking like 3 fire code regulations just by having you guys on the room, all right? No, but seriously, these guys had like 2.5 weeks, I think, to actually get everything down. And I think this event probably ran smoother than the last one. So they organized the carpooling. They got all of you guys followed up on for our phone calls. We had where's Lauren at? Yep, Lauren did a lot of the filmmaking for that. We had other volunteers who were working to make sure the event ran smoothly. I think it's pretty amazing that like so many of you guys are here and we were able to do so much in such a short time frame. So yeah, and also if you guys didn't notice, I've been like out of commission all fucking weekend. Basically sleeping in my hotel room with a sore throat while Matt and Sejin have done like everything here. Matt and Christian have done everything. So, and with the other volunteers. So really like tremendous effort from all of you guys involved. This is like running so smoothly. I don't think we had any problems except for a couple people I guess getting punched over Call of Duty games or something. But yeah, nice job for that. So, what do you want me to talk about, Chris? Do you want to do a word presentation or? Yeah, let's do that. Oh, also, I will give a shout out to Melina, who had a sub goal to bully me into actually dyeing my hair blue. So it was her and a couple other people here that got me to do it as well. So. Oh, actually, this is the guy right here that helped us, that sat through the 3-hour, 4-hour process of bleaching everything, dyeing everything. So thanks. And you were in Omaha too, so thanks. Oh, cool, nice. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we're going to be giving away limited edition merch. Limited edition, because Nina sends me like samples and I don't like all of them, so we don't end up using them. So you're going to get one-time, first edition, only edition, DGG prints and hoodies, polos. I think we got a couple plushies in here to give to your girlfriends, or for you guys, probably your moms or sisters. True. Days. What? Oh. What, are you okay? Oh, he's doing stuff. Okay. I guess while he's doing stuff. Well, I was going to make a performance sketch. What? No, I like your presentation, but I was going to like congratulate these guys. That's the last thing? Oh, okay. Fuck, my bad. Okay. Fuck you guys. My bad. Okay, so we do a thing where we make awards because we know you guys need the fucking dopamine hits so you're not getting on TikTok. So we found a way to give you guys shit. Yeah, we should do these award slides at the end of the canvassing stuff, just to kind of shout out different people in the community, have a little bit of fun, bully some people depending on how far we go, and yeah. So the first slide is going to be for nerd stuff or statistics. I imagine this is like calculating how many doors we hit, all of that. And this award is going to... Wait, can I get like drum rolls? Who is it? Oh, fuck, it's not an award, it was just a number. Oh, well, who computed these? Who calculated them? Who calculated the numbers? Patrick! $28,000 doors knocked this weekend. I think we hit every Democrat voter door in this district twice. So, nice job. Nice job. How many, just for comparison, when we did our canvassing effort last time in Georgia, on our last weekend, do you know how many doors we hit over that entire weekend? Yeah. In all 3 weekends, we got under 40,000. So yeah, you guys like actually killed it. Nice job, nice job. Okay. Don't worry, Jeff's always got things under control. He's good, he knows what he's doing. All right, next slide. 680 lists completed this weekend. Nice job. That's for you guys, so clap. You know, you're the only ones that are clap for you, so yeah, go for it. 24,591 voters reached this weekend. Repeated doors, and we had to repeat doors because we literally did the entire city that we had list-wise, so, yeah. Yeah. Every single vote came from this city, yes. We had 300 different volunteers. Does that include, like, volunteers on your guys' side? Or is that just people that showed up to campus? That's everybody? Everybody, nice job. The most we had on the last weekend of Georgia was, what, like 140? 150? Nice, jeez. All right, for the next slides, we're going to give awards to star performers. The first award is for helping with the spreadsheets, data entry for like lists and everything, and getting all the, a lot of the boring data stuff that you guys don't see, but goes into like writing all the little list numbers. You guys have all the boards you type into your app, and this award goes to where is he? Wait. Azron. What the fuck? Is he disrespecting the award process? Okay, who's the runner-up for this award? Did you go to Kinko's? Did you go to Kinko's? Cherry literally walked to Kinko's, okay? 3 miles to print these award sheets out. And Azron's not here. Shut up, okay? All right, next slide. He's coming, don't worry, guys. The redeemed streamer. Oh. Well, hold on, to be fair. Fancy Slot he did okay this weekend, right? Would you say so? Yeah, Fancy Slot did okay. Give him a round of applause. Oh, shit. Pixie's the real winner of the award, though. Nice job. Nice one. Good job. I'm proud of you. You're letting them pick? Well, then there's going to be the... Oh. Well, the first people are going to get all the good things. Okay. Okay. The farthest driver. So this is the person that drove the farthest distance to reach the canvassing event. Gabriel. Now, take this. Now it says from redacted because I don't know if we've established the legality of where he came from. So thank you, Gabriel, for coming to work for us. Okay. Even our friends to the north are invested in our elections, guys. Okay. The farthest flyer, this is the person that flew. Now, is this like actual distance or does this count like connecting flights? Okay, this is the person that flew from the farthest place. And this award is going to 2 people, Resolute and B. Malent 92. Resolute or? Check my hand. There we go. Wait, where'd you fly from? Seattle, okay. Beamelet 92, where are you? Next slide. The Hollaback Girl. This award is given to the girl that did all of the phone banking. Not just for this canvassing, but also for, did she have for Omaha too, right? Yes, so somebody's been with us for quite a while, volunteering, doing a lot of work. And this one goes to Lauren. I love your documentary about South Africa. Thank you.
It was
Pick a prize. The Peer Pressure Award. I believe this award went to... Really? I thought this was the people that pressured me into actually doing this event. Yeah, that's who it is, yeah. So the people that ultimately bullied me into this event. You took one off, good. And that goes to... Ruminate, our new politics friend. I can't even foresee right now how you're going to backstab me in the future, but I'm looking forward to it. So. The Stretch Goal Enforcer. I'm guessing this is for my hair. good one. RTB is gonna be so mad that he's not winning this award. Because he pings that fucking charity goals thing like every day in my fucking chat. I'm pretty sure I've removed that command like 6 times and he keeps adding it back. And this goes to Flip Crafter. We almost didn't do this event tonight because this guy's like holding bleach underneath my nose for like 5 minutes. And I'm like passing out and he's like, it's okay, that's normal. And I'm like, okay, dude. Also, shout out to the hotel staff that have to clean that shower out. Oh my god. The My Husband Dragged Me Last Minute Here to Work award. This one is going to Cass. Well, thank you so much. A metaphorical slide down some snowy stairs once again, Sejin. The Community Night Maestro that organized a lot of games and activities for Community Night, which was last night, goes to Jay. I have an excuse at least. Currently on their girl boss arc. But they're not even here today. But they did help a lot. This award is going to my Yaya. And for reference, she was the one that I believe connected us to the Savannah Dems that was able to help us get all of the lists for all of the doors you guys want to knock. So thank you so much for that. Wow. Okay. Picked up Steven Slack. What is this award? Oh my god, I'm excited for this one because the next slide is going to be the guy that's covering 50% of the hotel room. So let's see it. Who is it? Cherry. Come get your certificate. Yeah, I did. Let's come here. Yep. Shake my hand. I will say that if you guys were disappointed by the choice of some of the chip bags, like the Funyuns and the pretzels, that was Cherry's choice there. But Cherry was instrumental in getting us all of the pizzas, picking up all the sodas, all the chips and everything, so thank you so much, Cherry. I didn't. Most doors knocked. The one canvasser who knocked the most doors. Uh-oh. Only data for Saturday. Okay. Colin Perry. Colin, where are you at? He's out knocking doors right now, still to this day. What a brave soul. How many was it? 191. Think about that. How many did you knock? How many doors did you knock? Oh, so I do a lot of stuff online. I'm just curious, actually, before we do this, how many of you guys are fans, like new fans that have only known me for, we'll say less than 1 year? Okay, what about less than 2 years? Okay, so how many people have known me for like more than 2 years? Oh, okay. Wait, where the fuck were you guys at the last time we did Georgia? What the fuck? You fucking slackers, damn. Okay, hold on, well that changes the trajectory of this a lot, okay? I thought I was gonna talk about Red Pill Sneeko shit and how he lost his soul. No, but seriously, I do a lot of political stuff online. Well, I used to until I got addicted to Factorio again. But true. I talk a lot about politics, and one of the things that I pride myself on, that I'm proud of, I should say, is that you guys are really easy to mobilize and get politically active in ways that don't involve like tweeting or posting on Reddit. I think that almost everybody that we've talked to has had their jaws drop with the amount of people that we can mobilize for canvassing, and honestly, this was on an incredibly short notice, and I didn't promote it because after one time promoting it, I think we had over like 250 people sign up in like 3 days. It was unbelievable, the response. Like, I'm confident that given promotion of this across like my YouTube channel and everything else, we probably could have pulled over 700 people. I bet if I would have like really pushed. And bankrupted me. So it's really cool that you guys are willing to come out and actually do stuff in real life. One of the things I always say when I'm like critical of other people's communities, I always say, well, where are they at? And I feel like my community is pretty visible. I can see you guys in my chat rooms. I can see you guys in my subreddit. I don't know who the fuck is in my Discord, but there's people in there too. But it's really cool that when we do real life events like this, I get you guys to come out and we can actually knock on doors, and hopefully we can actually see some kind of measurable impact on the district. I believe Irk was the one I think that did the math for the last one, or at least he was the one that linked me to it. You could actually see like a small but measurable bump for Columbus with all of the doors that we knock in that area. So hopefully with Savannah, if you guys watch for after the runoff, maybe there'll be some computations. You'll be able to see the change you made here too. There's a lot of people that leave these events, and for a lot of you, how many of you guys is like the first time you've done any type of real life political event before? Cool, okay. Now the cool thing about this is for at least some of you, it won't be the last. There have been a lot of people that over the course of our Georgia stuff, over the course of our Omaha stuff, have taken some of the things they've learned here, some of the passion that they've kind of developed here, they've taken that into their own local communities. I got a lot of emails from people saying they're working on like state campaigns for the state assemblies, for mayoral races, and just volunteering in their own local states, which is really cool. And then we've gotten some people here that were like star performers last time. Is his name John? Jackson, not John. Jackson. Wait, did Jackson knock doors this time? Or was he... Sometimes, yeah. This is just one guy I remember because he was like a fucking star performer in Omaha. But yeah, I've seen that you've like kept up with political stuff. You're back here again too. So yeah, it's really cool to see that a lot of you guys will leave here and you'll get more involved in your local political scene in other areas across the country. That's a really cool thing. One of the things I've spoken a lot about on stream is I've started to realize that a lot of the aspects of our system like really do work. There's a lot of political power there for the taking. There's just not really people willing to go out and do it. So to see you guys all come out is a really cool and inspiring thing, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I heard there were a couple of strange interactions, but a couple of scuffles, but thankfully nobody got shot, so good job, I guess.
What is up, everybody? I'm Joshua Thomas, and I'm here playing Surviving Mars on Steam, and I'm here to give you some beginner's tips. But one thing I will say is, one tech or rule variant that I really like is the tech variety. It randomizes your tech trees a little bit. And what I mean by that, I'm not really too concerned with what all we're taking with us, so I don't care about adjusting this at all. But one thing that we're on the map, I've got 3 here, and those were part of my payload in my rocket. So I can just click sector scan, and oh man, I didn't find anything. What I'm looking for, in this case, I've already got rare metals in the very first place. So now I'm just looking for water. Hey, look at that. There's water here. I achieved a milestone, which I'll talk about in a second. And I'll just scan one more place for the heck of it. Sector scan. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna land here. Speed up a little bit. All right. So yeah, rare metals and water, always a great thing to find. Doesn't matter what grade they are. Another thing you can do is manually control drones. So right now, let me get some platforms, some depots set up, so that the drones will actually start doing stuff. Metals and all that kind of stuff. All right. We'll put concrete here because we've got concrete right here. Let's look at our ship right now. So here's where we are, and let's say that my drones are done collecting all the resources that are here. I've actually got this RC transport that I could go out with and start collecting resources. But let's say I don't have the RC transport. I'm gonna speed up time here. Once my drone comes out, I can actually click on random drones and have them go outside of their area of influence to go gather stuff or maybe repair something or fix a broken vehicle. But now one thing you want to see, so it's going outside of its area of influence, I manually controlled it. You want to watch out for its battery level though, because as it stands right now, I don't know if this guy's going to make it back to the rocket ship with the amount of battery power he's got. Okay, he's going to make it, hopefully. But then another thing that you can do right off the bat is, let's go ahead and pause the game. I'm just going to hit spacebar. Feel free to pause the game and just adjust the speed of your game however you see fit. There are times when I feel like I don't have anything to do, so I speed it up. But then there are times like this where I kind of want to slow everything down, and I want to take a second and analyze what I've got going on here. So I'm eventually going to build a dome somewhere in this area. Yep, I mean, I've got a science node right here, which is an anomaly, but I can scan that if I had the research drone with me. So I need to get my initial base set up. And since I know I'm going to probably put a dome right in this area to take advantage of these rare metals, I can just go ahead and get my prefabs situated, figure out where I want to start building different buildings, come up with a power grid, all without having to worry about time going by and me losing count of what's going on. And then I can also start building. Let's see, let's back up here. Yeah, I want to build some towers right here. You might think that you need to put sensor towers far apart from each other, but you really don't have to do that. You can build sensor towers in clusters, like so, and they will work just fine as is. Now, there is a small advantage to putting them far apart, but you don't have to litter your entire map with them, so that when you start scanning, you'll see right now I have no sensor tower enhancement on these scans, so they're just going, very slowly. So let's get time going again. Let's put a high priority
Anomaly found
on these power generators. Oh, it's about to be nighttime. And once these get going, we'll be able to see the area of influence that they have. And also, getting several sensor towers going will give you advance warning of these different dangers that can happen, like dust storms or meteor showers or cold waves. So you can also, like what I'm doing, I'm increasing the priority over here. You can decrease it. Oh, yep, right there. There's a meteor strike right there. Wow, right at the beginning again. So increasing priority makes the drones work on something faster, or decreasing it means that it's less important and that it doesn't need to be taken care of right away. So if you're visual healing, I don't need to worry about that. Yeah, sure, whatever. Well, like I said, I'm not going to save this. So you can do that, and now that we've got the sensor towers going, you'll see that I've got a sensor tower boost of 343%, and as we get further away, that reduces to 30% because I've got 3 towers going. So yeah, you don't have to spread them out across the map. It's not too big of a deal, but you can get that going. So another thing you're welcome to consider doing early on is getting electronics ready to be built. You don't have to just build them right away, but you're going to need to get them going. Let's see, I can also set waypoints. Click all. Have that guy start up. I accidentally clicked over there. Anyway, but getting electronics factories going is going to be really crucial for later in the game, and you're not going to notice the impact of it right away. But you're really going to, you may end up spending all of your funds getting other things to use that seem more important, but then things like your drone hub, they have an upkeep that requires electronic parts. And so these electronics are slowly going to start going down, and you're going to be like, no big deal. Oh, wow, the meteor strike. You're going to be like, no big deal. But if we look here, let's just say, oh, I'll make a supply pod or a cargo rocket, and I'll just buy more electronics and bring them from Earth. Electronics are one of your more expensive resources. You'll see here, 50 million, 45 million, 35 million, and so on. So yeah, as you go up, metals are 50 million too. Actually, didn't realize that. It might just be this particular one I'm playing on. So if you look at this, 50 million to bring these electronics here, and it quickly gets really expensive. But an electronics factory is 600 million, and that might seem like a lot to begin with. But if you go ahead and spend the 600 million on that factory, you are setting your colony up for lifetime. So we can just go ahead and launch this rocket. We'll just go ahead and launch it. And now that rocket is on its way. Maybe I've gotten my electronics factory a little early, but that's just to give you an example of, hey, make sure you set some money aside up here to have that electronics factory brought over. But in order to create electronics, this is why we want to find rare metals early on. You need to have rare metals. You need to have colonists so they can go into a rare metal extractor and extract these rare metals. So we got 500 here. That's going to be good for a while. And once we get the electronics factory going, or we should, actually prioritize extracting rare metals first before we get the electronics factory going. But that becomes an important thing as well. You can also place buildings without building them. And actually, I'm going to go into another save that I have. So we're just going to quit to the main menu, not even going to worry about saving. Don't really care about that. And then we're going to load a game that I've been playing for a while. And just so you guys know, I've got the Below and Beyond expansion. So you may see some things in here if you only have the base game that you're not going to have. I highly recommend getting the Below and Beyond, and I plan on, when I do my next big playthrough, I'm going to get the other terraforming expansion. So here we have a colony. Pay no attention to this. This is like a graphical glitch from earlier on. And one thing you can do is you can place buildings and just not build them. So over here, I've got drones working, and this is another great reason to pause time, is for when you know, you've got to set things up like this, really complex things, and then you just want to get them all going at once. So you can have some of a colony built, like I already built this concrete extractor because I don't need people to man it. But eventually I want to put this dome here, and I want to make sure I leave room for it, and I want to make sure its area of influence encompasses everything I want it to encompass. So the reason I'm putting it here is for these metal deposits that I am going to desperately need here in the future. So this, by putting this here, it prevents me from accidentally building something else here and then having to go and tear it down later. A better example of this is also in the Mars Underground, which is once again a part of the Below and Beyond expansion. So right here I've got my colony, but over here I've got a small colony that I want to build so that when people come off of the elevator right here, they don't die of oxygen, which is kind of what happened when they tried to run all the way over to this dome. Not everybody made it. So yeah, that's kind of a tip for if you get the Below and Beyond expansion, which I highly recommend. And I am not being paid to say that. I wish I was. But here I can see that I've got a very tight space to build in, and I don't want to just start building willy-nilly and accidentally build myself into a corner, needing to be able to build a building such as maybe I need to put a drone hub here, and I don't have room. Like maybe I didn't leave myself enough room anywhere in this area to be able to build it. So this is almost kind of like blueprinting the area that you want to create. And so over here I've been like, oh man, where am I going to get water from? Am I going to get water from over here in this colony? Or am I going to get water from the surface via this elevator? And so I was testing this out and accidentally built pipes too close to this command drone over here, and so I accidentally built it. But that's beside the point. Speaking of these pipes, let's go back up to the surface. And let's say you're in a dust storm or a meteor hits, and it's outside of the area of influence for your drone commanders and hubs and all that kind of stuff. So let's say a meteor strikes or a dust storm comes about and a leak occurs right in here where there's no influence. And it's you know, just sapping precious life-giving oxygen and water that my colonies over here need to survive. So what you can do is, let's see, let me find an area where I've had a building that I no longer use. Like right here, yeah, I've got power lines going to nowhere. One thing you can do is just salvage that area, and it will actually stop the leak. So that's kind of a cheat to the game. And the way you salvage is by going to your infrastructure right here and hitting the salvage button, and then you just salvage something that, salvage the area that is leaking. So once again, let's say it's like right here in the middle of an area where no drone hub influences it. I just hit that salvage button and I will salvage this. I'm not going to split this up, but this is going to go into another thing that you don't have to do. You might feel like you have to connect every single thing. Oh, thanks, research. You might feel like you have to connect every single part of your colony. But in actuality, you know, when you're first starting out colonies, and let's say you've got resources over here, and then there's something over here, like in this case, water, that you really need, well, you can create a separate colony and harvest whatever minerals you need over here. Now, in this case, I needed water for my colony over here, so yeah, I had to build these pipes. But take, for instance, right here, I just want to get these metals, and so I can create a separate colony and just build some moisture vaporators, which I have some prefabs waiting for that specific location. You can just create separate unattached colonies, and having different power grids and different life support grids can actually be beneficial. There are benefits and disadvantages to both. So let's say something catastrophic happens over here and it just wipes out my power grid, and all of a sudden all my people are starting to die. Or you can zoom way in. You can just watch the people having fun, by the way. This is just a fun thing to do if you're just wanting to kill some time. You can just watch, you know, hey, like the kids are playing on this crazy playground or going to school. You know, are there researchers in here? No, maybe not. So yeah, definitely a fun thing you can do. But anyway, looking at, you know, damages, this would be my only colony right here that would have to suffer from those damages. So these other colony that I'm creating and this one down here will survive, and they're not going to have that low power, or they're not going to be starving because of lack of food, or they're not going to be suffocating. Your colonists can absolutely die, become renegades. This is just a fun game if you have not played it. There's a drone carrying food somewhere. I'm just carrying it too. And so that can be an advantage. Now, you might be saying, oh, but Josh, if my colonies are connected, then won't one colony be able to save the other? And that is an advantage. So it is possible that if your colonies have power and oxygen and water connected, that they can support one another, and you can always just turn those off if need be with these valves. They're great things to create. So, like, oh, I don't need, you know, this I don't need this water over here, so I'm going to cut them off. That way, if one starts to go thirsty without water, then the other one will still be fine. But once again, there's ups and downs to both. And then I think we went over everything that I had. This is a fun game. You can see that you can spend hours just creating these colonies. What am I on? Sol 324 on this colony. Pay no attention to my population up here. I didn't do too good of a job with population on this particular map, but I had a ton of fun, and I'm still working on it. The scenario that I chose for this one definitely ended up being hard. Oh, and one more thing. Speaking of power grids and oxygen grids, you can actually look at those by going to your electricity and life support, and by clicking on it. You just click on it, and there you go. It's highlighted it for you, so I know I have a power grid here, a power grid here in separate colors, another power grid here, and a couple more over here. Same thing with my life support. I can see that this is one giant life support grid, so if a leak does occur over here, I know that this leak is affecting this entire colony, but that leak isn't affecting this colony or this colony right here. And once again, I can find my valves that I have placed here and shut them off. So now, even though you can't see it, this area over here is shut off from this area. So yeah, definitely a fun game. You can get very complex with it, and I hope this helps you understand all these major complexities that are going to be up here on the top of the screen. This is a lot to take in when you're first starting out, but it does let you start off really slowly with just having a few things to worry about before you end up growing a massive colony like this that also has, an underground and is mining asteroids and that kind of thing. So, I hope you enjoyed these beginner's tips for surviving Mars. I've been Joshua Thomas, you've been on the Failroad Express, and I hope you will watch more board game and video game videos with me and the rest of the guys. So, check you next time.
Playthrough, I'd aim for a difficulty bonus of around 150%. The difficulty bonus is affected by the mission sponsor, the commander profile, the mystery, and the map location you choose. For a first playthrough, I'd recommend playing with the mission sponsor of India, which has 3 rockets and a reasonable amount of money and decent research. Choose a commander profile of astrogeologist, which guarantees that you'll start with a rare metal deposit revealed. And then pick one of the easy mysteries, doesn't really matter which. That'll give you a difficulty bonus of around 120. Then select a pretty easy colony site. Now you can select anywhere on the map. There are some suggested sites, which you might want to take a look at. I'd recommend Suriname Beta, which is in the southern hemisphere. This has got fairly low threats and pretty awesome. For your first playthroughs, don't make it too easy. The easy settings in this game are ridiculously easy. You will blitz through the game in no time, the game won't feel challenging, and it really takes away a lot of the fun. For a first playthrough, I'd aim for a difficulty bonus of around 150%. The difficulty bonus is affected by the mission sponsor, the commander profile, the mystery, and the map location you choose. For a first playthrough, I'd recommend playing with a mission sponsor of India, which has has 3 rockets and a reasonable amount of money and decent research. Choose a commander profile of astrogeologist, which guarantees that you'll start with a rare metal deposit revealed. And then pick one of the easy mysteries, doesn't really matter which. That'll give you a difficulty bonus of around 120. Then select a pretty easy colony site. Now you can select anywhere on the map. There are some suggested sites, which you might want to take a look at. I'd recommend Suriname Beta, which is in the southern hemisphere. This has got fairly low threats and pretty high resources. What this means is, by starting with relatively low cash, but having good resources on Mars, you'll be more inclined to have a self-sustaining colony on Mars, rather than just taking the easy route of shipping everything in from Earth. And I guarantee this will give you a much more satisfying playthrough. After you've selected your initial settings, you'll be asked to select the payload for your first rocket. Now, don't be afraid to change these, because some of the payload suggestions are just plain crazy. I would always suggest that you take an RC Explorer on the first rocket of any mission. The payload for your first rocket is going to depend on several factors, but here are a few things to think about. If you've only got one rocket, then you're definitely going to have to take a moisture evaporator and a fuel refinery with you. Rockets only have fuel for a one-way journey, so in order to get your rocket back, you're going to have to fuel it up. So you need a fuel refinery to generate fuel, and fuel is generated from water, so you're going to need a moisture evaporator, unless you get lucky enough to get water, or you know that there's going to be water where you're going. If you know there's definitely going to be water there, then you can ditch the moisture evaporator and take a drone hub instead. I definitely suggest taking an RC rover and an Explorer on every first rocket. A transport is also a good option, but that can be sacrificed and brought on a second rocket. You can find concrete and metals locally. Polymers, machine parts, and electronics are advanced materials, and you can probably afford to wait for your second rocket to arrive to deliver those. But I would take 5 electronics with you on your first rocket, so that you can build a sensor tower, which will really speed up your scanning of the surface once you've landed. I'd finish off this build by adding a few orbital probes, so I can scan the surface before I land and make sure that I picked a good landing site, and always add a few drones, because they come in really handy. Welcome to Mars, Commander. As soon as you close the welcome screen, your first job is hit the pause button. You can do that by either clicking on the pause button or hitting the space bar. Your colony will be evaluated after 100 days, and you'll have tasks to complete before that. So don't waste several days sitting in orbit. You're going to need that time. The second reason for hitting pause is because you haven't got any active research yet, so you're wasting valuable research points. Click on the flask to open up your research tab and select some technologies to research. The order that the techs appear in is random, which means that you're going to have to adapt your strategy dependent on which technologies you get first. But it's not completely random. The techs are broken into tiers of groups of 5. So this tech, for example, the Earth-Mars Initiative, this is a tier 1 tech, so it will always appear in the first 5 techs that you research. Techs that appear in tier 2 will never appear earlier than slot 6. You'll always start off with the first 5 techs unlocked, and you may have some extra ones which have been granted by your initial settings. If you want to see the rest of the tree, just move your mouse to the right-hand side to scroll across. As well as the regular techs, there are also breakthrough technologies. These are required by scanning anomalies on the surface of Mars, but we'll talk more about that later. You can queue up to 5 technologies at a time, and if a technology is grayed out, then that means that it's already researched. Now it's time to scan the surface and decide where we want to land. Now you can queue up to 5 different tiles. They don't have to be next to each other, which will be slowly scanned over time. You can see it says scanning 0%. But if you've brought orbital probes with you, you can do instant scans. There are 4 resources that you want to be looking out for: concrete, metals, rare metals, and water. And probably the most precious of those is water. If you move over a tile, it'll tell you what the chances are of finding those resources in that particular sector. This sector's got a high chance of finding water. This one's got a high chance of water. This one's got a high chance of concrete and metals. Now, that doesn't mean you definitely will find those resources in that tile. It just means that there's a high probability. Okay, now here's a really good tip. If you've chosen the Sirenum Beta as a starting location, this crater down here is absolutely jam-packed with water. I wasn't kidding. There is 60,000 water in this crater. Actually, there's even more next door as well. And right next door to that, you've got metals and rare metals. And up here, concrete. So a combination of concrete, metals, rare metals, and a whole load of water makes this a really good place for a first-time playthrough. 2 more tips before we head down to the surface. Resupply. You go over to this rocket icon, go to resupply. There is no reason you have to wait before sending your next rockets. You could choose another rocket straight away, load it up with whatever you want, and launch it straight away. That rocket is already on the way, so you're saving valuable time waiting for that resupply mission. But just be certain that you've got everything that you need before you commit that last rocket. Lastly, consider taking advantage of any high ground. Wind turbines get a major boost from being on elevated terrain. Here, we've got an elevation boost of over 100%, doubling the power output of these wind turbines. It's definitely worth thinking about. It's time to land our first rocket on Mars. As you can see, it kicks up a lot of dust as it lands, and it's going to do the same thing when it takes off. And dust is your enemy on Mars. Dust is what causes buildings and vehicles to need maintenance, and maintenance costs are high, so you want to keep your rockets well away from your buildings. If you chose Astrogeologist as part of your starting settings, you'll already be able to rescan sectors with deep scanning that reveals deep deposits, and more importantly, more surface anomalies that you can access straight away. Let's rescan these sectors and see what else we can find. Now it's time to put those expensive drones and rovers to good use. Get your Explorer and get it researching anomalies. Put down a metals depot straight away. Your drones will automatically collect any surface metal deposits that are within the radius of your rocket. For metals deposits which are outside the radius of your rocket, you've got 2 options. If you put down a metals deposit and then call your RC rover to somewhere nearby, that will automatically gather resources. The other option is to set up a transport route using your transporter. Select your drones will automatically collect any surface metal deposits that are within the radius of your rocket. For metals deposits which are outside the radius of your rocket, you've got 2 options. If you put down a metals deposit and then call your RC rover to somewhere nearby, that will automatically gather resources. The other option is to set up a transport route using your transporter. Select the transport route create button, left click near the deposits, because it'll bring resources back from a small area around the point that you select. So let's click over here. Tell it what you want to collect, then left click where you want the resources deposited. Using these 2 methods, you can clear the surface metals from a huge area around your base and accumulate an enormous amount of metal. When your drones have finished collecting resources, just use your transporter to move the resources back to base. If a vehicle gets low on battery, you can either charge it up from the base's power grid by just putting it next to an electrical cable, or you can charge it up from another vehicle. You can dramatically increase your scanning speed by using sensor towers. A single sensor tower will increase your scanning rates in adjacent tiles by up to 400%, and it speeds up scanning of every sector on the map by 10%. And that tower boost stacks, so if you build 5 sensor towers, you'll be increasing your scanning speed by 50% on every tile on the map. There are 4 types of anomaly that you can analyze. The flask will give you bonus research points. The key will unlock new technologies. The magnifying glass unlocks breakthroughs, and the eye is kind of a wild card. It can grant you money, research points, and unlock events. Always keep plenty of research queued up. Some of these anomalies can grant thousands of research points, and if you don't have enough research queued up, those points are going to be wasted. Always analyze breakthrough anomalies first. These can be incredibly powerful, game-changing technologies, and you want to get your hands on them as soon as possible. If you have any questions about the keyboard commands, go to Options and Key Bindings. Here you can see all the keyboard controls in the game, and you can set new key bindings. Later in the game, you'll get lots and lots of things pinned to your taskbar, so I suggest hotkeying the unpin function. That'll save you a lot of time. The best place to get information about your colony is in the colony overview screen, and I would strongly recommend keeping this tab open at all times. Here you can find detailed information about the state of your base and the state of your resources. And don't forget that there are extra tabs. Here you can find out detailed information about your colonists. You can access the build menu using this cog and spanner icon down in the bottom left-hand corner, but the fastest and easiest way is the right mouse button. You can demolish individual buildings by selecting and then clicking on salvage, but to demolish pipes and cables, you'll have to use the salvage option from the build menu. It's also a much faster way of destroying multiple buildings. You can change the appearance of drones, rovers, and rockets. Just select them and cycle through the skins using the paintbrush icon. You can also do it for domes. In-dome buildings are slightly different, and you cycle through the different variants using the square bracket keys. And finally, upgrades. Some technologies will give you upgrades that have to be constructed. Click on a building and you'll find them in the top right of the building screen. Cable and pipe networks will sometimes malfunction, and the larger the networks are, the more often they'll malfunction. Instead of connecting buildings together on a single network, break it down into smaller networks. It seems that single-tile networks never have malfunctions. Using single-tile networks, you can also pack things really tightly together, which is great for solar or wind farms. Just remember that although buildings conduct power, they can't connect to each other directly. There must be a power cable in between the two. Another way to reduce your cable and pipe maintenance is to use tunnels for long distances. Tunnels carry oxygen, water, and power, and they never need any maintenance. One more tip with tunnels. Even though the two tunnel entrances are treated as one building, the drones will always go to the first tunnel entrance that was placed in order to build it. So bear that in mind when you're placing them down. Universal depots are a great way to create a distribution network for resources around your base, because your drones and shuttles will do it automatically. But you don't always want everything everywhere, so you can filter these out. Click on the one that you don't want, and boom, no food will be distributed to this depot. When you're spacing out drone hubs, try and make sure that they just overlap each other. That way, they can automatically repair each other if one malfunctions. And the overlap also makes a great place for a universal depot. In the early game, you'll probably only have access to hydroponic farms, but as soon as possible, you want to change over to the regular farm. Farms produce more food, use less water, and don't use power. 3 hydroponics farms uses 15 power. That's quite a difference. When you first build a farm, it'll have a soil quality of 50%. You can increase that up to 100% by planting crops that improve the soil quality. Initially, you can use soybeans, which increase the soil quality by 10% each crop. And once you've researched GM crops, you can grow one lot of cover crops, which will increase it by 40%, and then one lot of soybeans to take it up to 100.
Happy Saturday. I really appreciate you tuning in today. There's a lot of news going on. Obviously, Elon Musk madness, and apparently there was a civil war brewing between former co-host Adam Krigler and current host of Timcast IRL. Everyone loved it. Everyone loves themselves some juicy drama. Now, I wasn't going to cover this, and then I thought, bro, like, how do you not take this opportunity to sell delicious coffee brand coffee using promo code TIMCAST on To Boot to save big this weekend? Check out our holiday gift boxes. I'm telling you, you can build your own, save everything for the holidays, friends, family gifts. Otherwise, try our coffee tea or cocoa. I guarantee you'll love it. Or espresso. Dark chocolate covered espresso beans. Now, I respect greatly what Tim Pool has built with Timcast. Him and I have not always agreed on everything, but like, who cares, right? Like, Tim is a peer, and he is a guy that literally, built something truly amazing, gave a lot of people financial freedom, employment, things of that nature. Adam Krigler, I have no issues with Adam at all. I like Adam. I liked him. And so this drama was particularly annoying for me. People want to say, what do you think, Jeremy? Who won? Who lost? I literally, so what? Okay, there's some claims of some 2 adults doing some shenanigans, 2 consenting adults doing shenanigans. That's not drama. That's adults, okay? I'm not some leftist that's like, oh, one person was the boss and the other person wasn't the boss. People are adults, and whether or not they want to, put their naughty bits together, it really is of no concern of mine at all. I've known about all this drama for over a year, and it's just not been newsworthy, and it's not really been my story to tell. Of course, my inbox is flooding this morning with all sorts of stuff. Look, I'm not here to confirm or deny what Adam or Tim said. I'm here to share my opinion and hopefully get you to try out Coffee Brand Coffee, because that is, of course, my real business. Last night, Adam did a stream, a very long stream, in which he aired out his story of why he left Tim Pool's show or why it fell apart. Okay, much I thought of Adam's extraordinarily long live stream was very complimentary of Tim. It aired out some dirty laundry in terms of working for a guy that is probably on the edge a lot. I have never raised my voice at employees, but I've definitely had people raise their voice at me, and it's never been an issue. Like, I don't really care. I'm not weak like that. But they're essentially what the whole story boiled down to. Okay, I'm gonna boil it all down. Money. That's what it boiled down to. It appears to me that Tim gave Adam a very fair cut of the money, according to his statement, and eventually started to regret that. All this other ancillary stuff is irrelevant. Okay, so Adam claims that, or Tim claims that, and both actually agree on a certain day, the day it happened, the day it all went down. Their former producer Lydia, who people have varying opinions on, I have no opinion on her. I talked to her very shortly. I don't consume her content. I don't care. I'm nothing her. I don't mean that to be negative. I just mean I have no loyalties there at all. Apparently, she had made some remark about the right to choose, and Adam had been through a situation where his girlfriend or whatever at the time had made a decision, and he was particularly emotional about that, something I think any adult can understand, and that led to a shouting match where Adam lost his temper with Lydia, something he admits and Tim corroborates. Essentially screaming at her, yelling at her, she's crying, blah, 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 blah. Don't care. These people are adults. You shouldn't be crying when somebody's yelling at you anyway. But Tim intervened, which he had to do, okay? I'm not here to defend everything Tim did, but I am here to speak to you as somebody who has employed people for a very long time, who has had many employees for a very long time, even before the quartering. You know, when I was in the private sector, or when I was going to work every day, I had a very large team, and I had this stuff happen a couple of times in my career. And there's really, as a boss, you can't let that happen. You can't let employees scream at each other and get aggressive. Can't do it. So I don't blame Tim for trying to de-escalate. Now, some people will say he was simping. It doesn't even matter. He literally had no choice. There were several other things apparently boiled down to Adam didn't like Lydia. They're always sniping at her. Adam spent a particularly long amount of time on his stream about a potential relationship between Tim and Lydia. I don't care about that. These people are adults. We're not children. It's funny to hear about, right? It's spicy to hear about. But if you want my opinion about whether or not two people bang, I could not care less. Especially when you tell me that they're two people that are consenting. If one person was married, guess what? People cheat on their spouses all the time. That's not newsworthy, okay? I don't care. And I'm not saying it's, not hilarious. I'm not saying it's not funny. I'm not saying it's not interesting. I'm not saying it's not juicy. But if that happens, you're like, if you are not faithful, your marriage falls apart or whatever, you get divorced, life goes on. When you get to be an old lump of coal like me, I have lots of friends who are on their second marriage. Like, so what? I don't care about that. There was, ultimately a decision. Sorry, Huck's with me in the office because, his sister, not biological, it's that time. And old Mr. Humps-a-Lot here. Yeah, that's you up here. There he is, Humps-a-Lot. He's getting too big. It's hard to keep him apart. So he's in my office with me. So he learn some restraint. Some people would say that some other people could also learn some restraint. I don't have any different opinion of Adam. I don't have any different opinion about Tim. Some people say, Adam brought out this, many anecdotes about alleging that Tim was yelling at, employees and this and that. I don't even care. Like, I don't know, call me insensitive, but like employees get yelled at. That's just, I don't really understand why that's a big deal. Is it different because it's a woman? I think people are treating it different because it's a woman. I don't care. These people could quit at any moment, right, if they're unhappy with their job. Now, is it okay to be yelling and screaming at people? No, I don't think you get quite the reaction long term. But sometimes you got to let somebody know they screwed up. And, I think like yelling and screaming at somebody is not a good way to go about that. But again, I don't care. Essentially, it gets brought to light today. So Tim does a counter stream today where he expertly trolls people by streaming for several hours before actually getting to the only thing anyone actually cared about, whether or not he banged somebody. Again, I don't care about that. Is it funny? Yes. But people bang. I don't understand. Like, I don't care. Ultimately, do I think having all of your employees living in the same house and fraternizing, especially if wine and booze are involved, is a good idea? No, not at all. We've all had an office Christmas party where two people leave that they're married, or two people leave together, or somebody gets overserved. It's just a recipe for disaster. Now, I know given the location, it wasn't quite an option for him, but I mean, this is what happens when you have a bunch of young people living together in close quarters, spending a lot of time together. They bang, okay? I don't really care. I think that ultimately, whatever. And I think Adam was tactical in when he released his video, absolutely. Thanksgiving Day or the day after Thanksgiving when we know Tim didn't have a show, genius, okay? Does Adam have legitimate gripes with Tim? Sure. But there are also things that Tim said that, like, he continued to pay Adam a salary even when he wasn't contributing to the show. He continued to employ his girlfriend or wife or whatever when Adam wasn't working on the show. It seems like, to me, that even if Tim was an insufferable jerk, okay, maybe that's true. You never really know how people are when they're off camera, okay? Me, you see what you get, what you see what you get, what you see. I'm essentially the exact same person off camera. Anyone who's met me IRL will tell you that. But I don't even care if Tim's a jerk. It seems like he went out of his way to, you know, continue to pay this guy. Now, did Tim make some weird statements like, well, my lawyers told me I couldn't pay Adam any more money. No lawyer told him he couldn't pay him more money. And maybe that was a bad way to word it. But like, you know, essentially, Adam having a really big salary opportunity to continue to work for Tim, he chose not to because Tim wanted him to sign an NDA. Again, also totally reasonable thing to do. And Adam is also totally well within his right to not sign that. So, you know, if people are looking for me to disavow or to, you know, I'm an adult. You know, none of this stuff surprises me. When you have a bunch of people living together in a house, drinking, working together, people are gonna catch feelings. That happens. The money stuff sounds like he took care of Adam pretty well. Did Adam have legitimate gripes? Yep. Sounds like he did, and he got a great opportunity last night in front of thousands of people to air out the Festivus airing of grievances. 100% rightful to do so, and I hope he feels better. I think both those personalities probably have some regrets, and you know, both of them are off doing their own thing. I hold nothing against Adam Krigler, and I hold nothing against Tim Pool. If I worked for him or something, that might be different. But I legitimately couldn't care less about the romance stuff. You know, especially in a situation where, again, everyone seemed to be allegedly consensual and nobody's coming out saying it wasn't. And you know, whatever the case is. I don't care. I mean, it's funny. Don't get me wrong, it's funny. But like, Tim's going to be fine. Adam's going to be fine. I don't think people should cancel either one of them about it. This is just messy business, and it gets that.
Do you want to talk about Ye or do you want to talk about Hassan? I want to talk about Kanye West.
Okay.
What did you think about his whole outbreak today?
Seems like a guy that's kind of mentally ill, but what are you gonna do, man?
I don't.
Wait, are you?
I don't know. Yes. That's me. Who was in Paris?
Oh, God. Oh man. All right. Okay.
Who was in Paris?
You know who was in Paris?
Niggas.
Yeah. Apparently it was Nazis, but you know, what are we gonna do?
Do you want to talk about Ye or do you want to talk about Hassan? These are my two, like,
what am I gonna talk about Hassan? What do I have to say about Hassan?
I feel like you're kind of, coming at him at a place of insecurity.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like Hassan, like, if I have to compare you two, Hassan is Tucker Carlson, and you are a place where people can just talk. Does that make sense at all?
Not really, but hit me. What do you got? What do you got for me?
Shit. I feel like Hassan clearly states that he's just adjective propaganda, where you are where people who actually have more thought out ideas come and talk.
Yeah, I try to be.
Yeah, that's why, like, I feel like that's your main, like, issue with him. Like, nigga, he doesn't really fucking say anything that's like his own opinion. He's just like, this is leftist, this is right. Have you ever thought about social inequalities?
Isn't that exactly like what I say about him? Like, the problem is if you go to his stream, you're basically just gonna get like the copy pasted, like, here are the copy pasted talking points of whatever fucking the progressives believe today.
Yeah, you do say that, but you don't give us like an alternative.
Well, when I beat Factorio, don't worry, we're gonna do so many more politics, okay?
Bruh, I just started actually, this might be your fault, because I downloaded this shit for you.
Big mistake.
But
oh no, Vanilla Factorio is fine. You'll have fun for like a week or two.
No, nigga, I started with the space exploration shit, so I think you might have f***ed me for life.
You'll quit. You're not gonna understand this. You know how big your brain needs to be? And you have no Factorio experience at all in Vanilla? How do you think you're gonna do space exploration?
Bro, it sounds like what you're trying to say is I need affirmative action for Factorio. Is that what you're saying, Destiny?
Bro, what I'm saying is affirmative action wouldn't be enough, okay? You need reparations plus affirmative action plus somebody to walk you through it, alright?
I hate you. Oh, shit, that's funny. Yeah, okay, I had a whole thing. What's your problem with fashion?
I don't have a problem with it. I just don't give a f about it.
Yeah, that means you have a problem with it because you could be a lot cooler if you liked fashion.
Doesn't mean I have a problem with it. I just don't really care that much.
But what does that mean?
I just don't care.
Why?
Because I don't know. I just don't care that much. If I were to spend money on something or care about some shit, it'd probably be like souping up my car or getting a cooler car.
Why don't you like graphic tees? I think you just need to start with graphic tees.
Well, I have
that aren't
tees.
like DGG shit.
No, fuck that. I like my t-shirts. They're cute.
Would you ever wear a flannel?
I don't know. If there was some girl I was trying to smash and she was like super into that, maybe.
Jesus Christ. Okay, here, I guess I look at Kanye West and I think of we have to look at him like an uncle with like dementia. What do you think about that take?
An uncle with dementia. I mean, I guess you could.
Like, honestly, I look at this nigga now and like he was saying a lot of pro-black shit somewhat back then, but like you can really see the remnants of somewhat his more conservative rooting because I guess he felt like he was white and coming from a community where I was like mostly surrounded by white people. like I can kind of correspond with that. But I don't know. It's weird seeing how it broke his brain.
I don't know if it's a white thing that was breaking his brain.
What do you think was breaking his brain?
If I had to guess, I would say he's probably a little bit on the spectrum, a little autistic. It feels like it, just from all the early stories I heard about him, and then the way that he acts. That's one thing. And then now it seems like he's got some bipolar or some shit going on. And then it seems like, and this is all just like guess because I don't follow his life as much as other people do, but it seems like that shit with Kim like broke his brain apart and hyper accelerated everything.
I agree with you.
Combine that with the fact that like he is kind of a god, right? Like richest black man in the world, one of the most famous musical artists of all time. Like it's pretty hard not to get a god complex when you've got that on your resume. So that probably didn't help. And then he's surrounded by a bunch of fucking yes men. Yeah, it's just like the perfect recipe for disaster with somebody with mental illness.
Yeah, I agree. When you say he's like a god, I believe like I don't know, like you look at this nigga and you realize that he's just vulnerable. Like it's like seeing a child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I believe he still has like child brain. Like clearly he's an anti-Semite. The nigga said he loves Hitler. He said he loves Nazis, and it's honestly the most retarded shit I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry. Should I say remedial or should I say moronic? But it's the most retarded shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, I really think Kanye West needs a lobotomy. Kanye West needs to be taken away from his kids. Like, anything. But like, what he's doing right now.
Kids? I don't know what is the business.
Not enough, clearly.
Okay, well.
Like, bro, like, this arc has been insane. Like, I know what you're saying when you're like, oh, if I did mushrooms this year, I'd be because I literally, like, this is my first kind of year, like, or like my first, like, 6 months of watching you. Before I was, like, watching Hassan, and I'm like, oh, watching Destiny is base. You know what I mean? Like, I really fucking love your content. Yeah, of course. But, like, this shit is mind-breaking. I'm like, did you do this? Are you the reason why Kanye West is a Nazi now, Destiny?
No, I don't think so. Well, some people might want to blame me.
I think a certain person would want to blame you.
Which Mr. Redacted?
Yes, sir. Yo, I can't believe it. The first time you started talking to this guy, or like the first video I've actually seen of his, like the content that you reacted to was this thing where he like was arguing with his girlfriend and f***ing like a doll. Like, I watched that shit with my girlfriend, and how did you not know this nigga was gonna be like a shooter, or like could be Hitler, or like anything else?
I mean, I thought he'd be weird publicly. I never thought he'd get that weird privately, I guess.
Being weird publicly is already like a huge step.
Yeah, but I'm a streamer. Everybody's weird in this world publicly.
Not at all. Nobody's ever that weird.
No, man. There's a lot of weird people. Got a lot of crazy people on my stream.
Yes, but I don't think I've never seen anything like this.
No, me neither. No, I mean, I haven't either. This guy's exceptionally crazy. I'm not going to deny that. Man.
Why do you like interacting with people like that?
They're interesting. I like people that are not boring.
Do you really like when people try to destroy your life?
Sometimes, as long as I feel like I can win. Yeah.
Where do you feel like you're on to coming out at the end of this shit?
I think I'll be okay. It was a little bit irritating in the beginning, but I think we're fine.
Does everything, like every type of like experience, feel like that?
Not every type, but bullshit ones do. And I'm usually like a pretty decent person, so I'm usually not getting like over by weird shit because I don't like do shit, so I'm pretty safe most of the time.
What?
I don't
are you serious?
Shit.
Or are you
What do you mean I'm serious?
Bro, there's so many fucking crazy people who are in your life.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm not worried about, like, usually, like, allegations and shit, because I'm not, like, a rapist, so I don't, like, usually have to, it's just not something I think about, like, oh, no, what if somebody catches me on, like, for rape at some point, or, like, shit like that.
Yeah, I guess, if that's the worst thing you could do. Like, people could say you probably could kill somebody, or, like, you abuse somebody, like, somebody accused you of you, like, abusing them before, or, like, you being, like, a Nazi. Like, I think those things are very comparable.
I'd rather get accused for being, like a Nazi than like a rapist, I think. I don't think those are that comparable, but I know what you mean. What's the point? What do we get? What's the point? What are we getting to?
Picking your mind. Here's the last thing I'll leave you with.
Yeah,
I think the best thing that your stream has taught me is saying true.
Yeah, okay.
True is the best defense I've ever like found in my life.
Gotcha, based. Okay.
All right, love you, bro. Peace.
Bye.
Do you know about the people on Twitter that say to Cubans in Miami, your grandfather had slaves? What the f is up with that? Why are they saying that? That's insane. Do you know?
Yeah, we deal with a few of those on stream, yeah.
Where do they even get that idea? That's insane. Like, it's slaves
the
in, like,
idea is that if you're in the United States and you're not like a communist and you're from Cuba, they call you Gusano. What they basically say is you probably had slaves and you were opposed to Castro's revolution or something, just dumb shit like that. But it's all like a bunch of white kids that say it. Like, I don't know, it's just internet socialists being cringe.
Yeah. And then one last thing, and then I'll go. By the way, thank you for having me on. I'm a genuine, like, huge ass fan right now.
No problem.
Do you know about the way that, okay, your Cuban family, they watch, I would imagine, media in Spanish, right?
No. My mom, I feel like some Cubans that came over, or there are some immigrants that come over that want to be very, 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 very American. So they, yeah, my mom was like that. Like she didn't teach us Spanish or anything. When I would go in the summers with my grandma, we're in Hialeah, and I would show her, and she would watch all Spanish shows. So like some of the old fucking soap operas, Carita de Ángel or whatever, like just random fucking shit. I remember watching on her TV, but I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what it meant. But all of my immediate family all consume all their media in English, American. They're very, very, very American. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. My dad's like that. He's like super Americanized. Well, okay, but my grandmother, my stepfather, like all these other people only speak Spanish still. Dude, the way that political, what's the word I want? Propaganda is done in Spanish. Like when I talk to my only Spanish-speaking relatives that are intelligent and politically active, the things they believe are totally, like they don't know about the transing to kids. They're not talking about that in Spanish. All they say is like, oh, they just keep calling Biden a socialist and saying that they want to impose socialism. And like they literally don't know about the transing the kids shit. So a lot of people I think that like the red wave that just happened in Miami, people are going, oh, well, of course, well, the Cubans are super conservative, and now you have all this stuff that's super progressive, and that's going to terrify them away. But like, dude, the Spanish-speaking people literally don't even, like, that's not brought up. They're still just pandering to fear of socialism. Did you know
that's probably,
that, like, the propaganda's totally different?
Well, yeah, of course. When you've got people coming from fucking, because if you're a Cuban in the United States, all you hear are horrible fucking things about Castro and living in fucking Cuba. And if you still have family there, they're living like the worst, poorest fucking life ever.
Well, do you know what it's like now?
Do I know what it's like now? I think that they do okay, but I'm pretty sure their tech is really old. I think their cell phone shit is like pretty fucked. A lot of people work like...
They're on 5 hours of electricity a day, bro.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, did you hear about the... I'm sorry, go on. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, no, I just like white kids in the United States will just point to the fact that like 96% of them are doctors and like 100% of them are literate. They think Cuba's some fucking like paradise for brown people. But the reality is that every brown person that comes north to the United States probably fucking hates socialism. People coming from Venezuela, people coming from Cuba, like if you tell them that you want to like do socialism, they're gonna look at you like you're fucking insane. But
oh yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's all white kids who are talking about it in the U.S. Like, what are you gonna do?
I mean, yeah, I kind of do want to know what to do because, like, you were well now you can't do shit. But like a year ago, you reported for calling Gusano, and like they're like, no, that's nothing. It's not against the terms of service. It's like, goddamn. No, dude, Cuba's super bad. Did you hear about the tankers that exploded?
Nope.
Oh fuck. Oh, dude, it's really bad. Oh fuck. They had they're on the last of their credit with the world. They have no credit. They have their monetary policy collapsed. They tried to implement a second currency that they tried to peg to the dollar to only use in the tourist areas. So you go to like the tourist areas of Havana, Maradero, where the resorts are, and you would use this $1 currency. And the idea was so that the wealth doesn't trickle out to the rest of Cuba because they want to control monetary policy. It failed within, I think, 3 years. It's called El Chavito.
Okay.
So that collapsed. Now
this happened I think like a year ago, right? Or a little bit longer than that maybe? Yeah, okay. I remember reading about because Cuba was running into
Welcome, I'm Joshua Delisle, the Designer Maker. Now, in a previous episode, we criticised some products that Viva had produced, but not everything from Viva is that bad, you know. The induction forge, the hydraulic punch, they work fantastic and really good value for money as well. Still, the products that have been rejecting, we have discussion. I list a whole load of things of why it's wrong, they listen, they pass that to their manufacturers, and then they decide whether they're going to restock those items or not. So we're still speaking to each other, and even so, Viva actually turned around and said, Josh, it's getting a bit
chilly now. Do you fancy trying out one of our new heaters? And apparently this thing is far cheaper to run than electricity, and there also might be alternative fuels that we can try. Let's open the box and see what's inside. Right, got me brew. Let's have a look. Alrighty, so in this kit, and there will be a link in the description, you get this. So you get the main heater itself, which is an 8 kilowatt apparently. Some ducting, which I'm guessing they want you to use to go on the outlet here. This, I believe, is your air inlet pipe. That'll attach somewhere. We've got a little filter as well, so you're not getting any dust in there. You've got an exhaust pipe. Now, this is what's special about these. Space heaters that I'm used to, they just kind of burn and blow carbon dioxide all around your workshop. You're meant to have it slightly open, which defeats the point of a heater, in my point. So this is different, as in it's going to exhaust its gases outside, but only keeping the heat inside with a heat exchanger. So that's interesting. And obviously, you've got the rest of your fixings and stuff here. Now, also interestingly, the little handbook that they give you has quite a list on all the different parts and servicing, how to install it, and amazingly, you get a remote with it as well. Real fancy. But before we install it, let's actually have a look inside this and see if there's anything worrying about it. So, a good start. It's got nice little clips rather than a load of little screws to undo. So the idea, I think, behind this is that everything is fully serviceable, which I like very much. So the cover is structural. Right, so because you can exhaust the gases from this, which means that you theoretically can use this in confined spaces. So they've made it 12 volt operational, meaning you can have it in your tiny home or car. And in here, I believe, is a fuse, right? So you've got a 20 amp car fuse in that for your 12 volt input. Now this is the tank here, which is not fixed at all. Neither is that apparently. This is obviously your fuel pump, so it's pumping straight from the fuel tank into the burner, which is this device here. What you'll notice, if you go on Viva, they actually sell these individually, which connects straight to the fuel line of your vehicle. So I like that. Everything so far is detachable. Unclip this as well. I'm not going to get that the wrong way around, which is helpful. Oh, that does come off. All right, so there's a metal clip here holding the fuel line on. I'm just going to take that off. Got a kink in that as well. I might have to do something about that. Right, one of these is air input, and the other one is exhaust. I would assume this is the air input, because that's closest to the fuel line. And that must be exhaust. Let's speed this along. Right, so I'm most curious about what's in here. Right, would you look at that? Right, so fuel's coming in here. It's getting ignited here. So look at what that looks like. So that's your ignition here, which looks like a little glow plug of some sort, looking at that little coil on the end of it. That is something that can be replaced, but I would have to make a special tool to get that out. Yeah, unless there is a special socket for glow plugs, I don't know. So this looks like die-cast aluminium, which it all looks in fairly good nick. Now this is a centrifugal fan, so this is actually sucking air in, blowing it out. It's going around all these parts, which is good that the heat is going away from all the electronics board that are here, coming out around here and out. Now the plastic, interestingly, does have some little, what could be heat-resistant spacing here. There's nothing on the plastic to say exactly what this plastic is, but you would assume it's a thermal setting plastic, as in it won't melt when it gets hot, because this thing produces 8 kilowatts. Now so far I've not seen much to worry about, other than this bracket here, where the fuel lines go through. There is an awful burr on that. So if there was any kind of vibration, that would definitely cut through your fuel line eventually. But I'm going to get my burr cutter and just take off that burr. Right, so that is much better. But to go belt and braces, what I've got is some sticky back foam that I've recycled from another project. So I am just going to line all around that with something protective. You could obviously use some electrical tape if you felt like doing the same. Diesel alone, which is what you're meant to be using on this, won't combust without being atomized first. So it's not really, say, a risk, more of an annoyance if you do spring a leak. There we are. Right, let's put it back together. All right, so for the record, this tin box is tin. It's very thin. So this is £120, but you can get these for around about £80, £90 just for the burner itself. What you're paying for is the fuel tank and this tin box for an extra £30. So something to consider. But I think I would actually be tempted to get the cheaper models that don't have all of this around. You know, I could easily make some brackets for this and just mount it to the wall and have the fuel tank separate and everything I can see and watch and make sure is behaving properly. But it looks quite neat like this, and it will serve its purpose, I'm sure. Right, so if there are any electricians out there, you tell me if I'm doing this right. But first thing I'm going to do is put some ferrules on these connections here. There we are. So far, so good. Alright, so what I have here is a 12-volt power supply. The machine itself takes 40 watts of power. This is rated at 60 watts of power, and I've put ferrules on the end of this as well. So for ease of maintenance, I decided to connect these two together using a 12-volt connector like this one. Now this is rated to 80 watts. So this draws 40, this produces 60, and that's 80 watts. So hopefully nothing will burn down. Alright, so I think the receiving end should be female, but it sounds so wrong. So I'll probably cover over that with some shrink wrap, you know, I want to zap myself if I'm trying to pull this thing apart. Alright, so I've rigged up the air intake like this, which is what I assume they want us to do. And they've given me a couple of self-tapping screws here. Everything looks like it corresponds to those two holes there. The problem is you've got the fuel line directly behind here. Fortunately, they've given you these other big holes, so I can actually see where the fuel line is and we'll just miss it. But I'm half thinking I might just get rid of this. I don't think it's entirely necessary. I mean, let's just have a little look at what's actually in this filter. Right, so inside the filter, all we've got is a plastic mesh. So it's not going to get rid of all the real fine stuff. I think I'm just going to not bother with this, and I think it'll be fine without it. Yeah, I may even cut myself a piece of stainless steel mesh and just put that directly over the inlet. I think that'd be more practical rather than having all of this in the way. So I'm going to take this off, actually. Okay, so the next logical step, I think, is to mount this to my wall. And now I did think to have it on the floor down there. But actually, you want to have a bit of space underneath so you can do a bit of maintenance. You also don't want it too high, otherwise you won't be able to fill the thing with fuel very easily. So for me, I'm going to bring it just up to this height here, so I need to make some brackets. Alright, we're finally ready to use this thing. Now, I had a little issue, so I trawled on the internet web to figure out some answers. And I did not realise how popular these things are. I mean, there are videos upon videos reaching hundreds of thousands of views each. So people obviously are loving these things. I mean, I'm a complete virgin. If you're new to these like me, you're probably thinking, it can't be that good. But apparently they are. Yeah, so what I've done for you guys is I've selected some of my favourite videos that I found that were most helpful, with lots of more in-depth information, especially things on like using the controller and how to install that properly. That will all be in the description below. Right, so in the myriad of information that is out there, I think I'm just going to go down to the bare knuckles of how efficient is this to run? And what about those alternative fuels, you say? Well, to start with, I've got some red diesel. I've got exactly 1 litre there. What we're going to do is we're going to fill it up. We're going to put it on its highest setting, 5.5 hertz. Before I pour this in, I need to make a little funnel though. I've got myself a tonic bottle. Right then, exactly 1 litre. Alright, so what you see here is what is referred to as the blue controller. There's different types of controllers for different machines. They're all pretty much the same, but all of them have fancy button work that you need to do. So the first thing that we need to do is to purge the line of fuel. And to do that, apparently we press this button here and this button here at the same time. So H, off. So if we turn that to on, and you can hear a little click, that's now purging the fuel line. To turn it off, we'll press this button here. But I'm going to keep doing it until I can see it going into the engine itself. Right, to get some of the air out, what I've actually done is I've disconnected it at the bottom. I'm just going to let it drain into a cup for the moment. There we go. So I drained a little bit out the bottom just to get all the air bubbles out. And I've reconnected it and I'll pour this back into the tank. So if we press and hold this button, you get HFA. And then if you press these two buttons together on the remote, it will connect until you get this screen here. So if you're struggling to connect, that's what you have to do. Press and hold this one, and then press those two. So now that we are connected, we should be able to just turn it on. If I press up, it's giving me the 5 hertz. We should be able to go up to 5.5. You can see it changing on there actually. There we go, 5.5 hertz. That's the pumping speed. If we press this one, press and hold, it's on. We've got some indication here that the fan is on. We've got air intake, exhaust, the glow plug, and the heat sensor. Everything is working fine so far. So it takes a little bit of time for the glow plug to get to temperature before it starts pumping fuel through. There we go. There we go. And welcome to my other shiny new product that I've yet to review yet. More on this bad boy in a bit. But look, it's actually saying it's drawing 146 watts. I saw it there at one point. Oh, we're on a jet engine now. Look at it here, firing up. Well, we're cooking now. Yeah, so this is now connected to the 12-volt port on the back of the EcoFlow. So proof of concept, if you want one of these for your tiny house or, you know, your off-grid site, it will work fine. But for the electricians that were possibly screaming at me already, these are no good. This won't do it. Right, so as you can see, our little man on the workshop heater is very unhappy. I'm going to time this whole operation. We'll see how long it takes to get to 20 degrees Celsius. But more importantly, I'm interested in the fuel consumption. So I'll check back with you guys once we've run out of fuel. Right, in the meantime, I have another interesting piece of kit. This thermal imaging camera. So I was going to save this for another burner making video where I was going to show you guys how to make a really efficient wood burner. But it seems very apt that I bring it to here as well. So I can show you now all the areas that are getting hot, so especially that exhaust, which peaked at about 240 degrees Celsius. So I'm also curious that my little plate there, it doesn't get too hot. I might have to put some vent holes on it just so it's got some air circulation. But we can also keep a good eye on the burner itself and see if there's anywhere where it's getting excess heat. Right, this thing's been on for like 10 minutes now, and I can honestly say I'm toasty already. My workshop is 6 meters by 3 meters by about 2.5 meters tall. And from what I gathered on the internet, it only needs about 2 kilowatts max for a burner to be installed to make a sufficient heat. So here's another thing you want to make note of. Look at that. So that's firing heat straight at my trestles there. They've already gone up to 50 degrees C. I'm gonna have to move those out of the way. All right, so according to the EcoFlow, we are running at about 40 watts periodically, but the initial setup needs like over 150 watts. So I've definitely got to rethink the power supply if I want to connect this into the mains. Tell you what, this is interesting though, because I can see the hot points on the EcoFlow. You can see there, we're reaching like 30 degrees C. But also the actual wires themselves, you can see where they're heating up. That connection there, that's gone up to at least 35 degrees Celsius. And obviously where the join is there, you can see that's heated up. That went up to 20 degrees C. And just for fun, I did put the ducting on the end of there. That way I can pump the air directly underneath the table. Yeah, look at that, 86.
We've got an underneath shot here, but I thought I'd show you some of this. See there, we're getting up to well past 200 degrees. But my little panel's doing all right. So that's about 50 degrees there, according to this. But I'll be watching that very, very carefully.
All right, we're closely approaching 1 hour now. Our little man is very happy, and we're climbing up to 20 degrees C. Bear in mind, this is at the high point furthest away from the burner. So I'll show you the shutdown sequence. So what I was going to do is to use a full litre of fuel, but if we do that, I'm going to die in here because it's actually feeling really warm. So instead, we'll drain out all the remaining fuel and measure how much we've got left, and then we'll be able to work out how much it's used in an hour. Interestingly as well, the dial says it's 33 degrees on its ambient temp. That's not going to be relative to the room, so there's no point, I think, setting the machine to the temperature. It's more that you want to set your machine to a certain flow rate, dial that in how you like it, and then turn it off when necessary. Right, we're ready now. So if I press and hold this button here, turning off. Now the thing you'll want to know is it will keep the fan going until it's fully cooled down. It has a cooling down sequence. There we go, don't need to shout as much now. Right, so initially I was just going to empty the remnants using just the pump, but that was apparent that was going to just take forever. So instead, we're going to take it manually apart. Well, we've used a bit, that's for sure. Alrighty, I've sat down and figured out the mass for you. And trust me, it's boiling in here. I've had to take the hat off and everything, so the ball patch is in full view. Right, so we've used 350 millilitres, and we've used red diesel, and the current price for that is £1.30 per litre. So if we take £1.30 and divide that by 1,000 millilitres, and then times that by 350 millilitres, that's what we used within an hour, we get 45 pence. Now, if we divide that by the 8 kilowatt output that this has got, then we get 5 pence per kilowatt hour. And just to put that into perspective, the current electrical price is 35 pence per kilowatt. So this is 7 times cheaper to run, I believe, compared to electricity. That's amazing. Now, we also had it on full wax of 5.5 hertz. If we divide that by the 1.7 hertz, which is what the lowest setting this will run at, you get 3.2. So at 45 pence per hour divided by 3.2, that's 14p an hour. And not only that, you don't have to have it on all day either. You could have it on just for an hour. And if that knocks the frost out of the air, then that's all worth it, I think. You know, and it seriously worries me, the amount of people who've got electrical blow heaters and how much juice they're using and how much they're charging. It's absolutely ridiculous. Which leads me to another ridiculous point, and that is the alternative fuels. Right, so red diesel is the legit fuel of choice. However, I was very interested to know that you can burn waste oil on these things, which obviously you can obtain for free from your local garage. However, in England at least, the legislation has changed, so it's now a criminal offence if you burn waste oil in one of these. And you're probably thinking, well, that's because of environmental law and all of that kind of stuff, so they don't want you burning waste oil. It's not very good for the environment. Well, when the garages pay someone to take it away, guess what they do with it? They burn it. So the only reason they don't want you to be burning it in your workshop is because they're not earning any tax money. Now, you can actually get permission to burn waste oil, but it's going to cost you about £3,500, and then you have to renew that every year for £1,500. But it really has made me think of all those poor souls who are in their houses, who can't afford the heating and who are freezing. Now, I'm in a very fortunate position. Although we couldn't afford to buy fuel for our house this year, it was going to cost well over £1,000 to fill up our tank because we run off oil. But fortunately for me, we have wood burners and I have an ample supply of wood, so we're fine. But with the massive fuel prices and electrical prices, people will freeze this Christmas. And although some parts of this are a little bit shoddy, that is fantastic. Now, you could theoretically burn biofuel through this, so you get some old chip fat, for example, from a local fish and chippy. However, the energy content of chip fat isn't as good as diesel, and waste oil is even better. And to get a working machine that is like 85 quid, 90 quid is phenomenal. In fact, you could heat your entire home with one of these. But the problem is one of these could be potentially very dangerous if you don't know how to install one properly. Now, you may argue that we're using waste oil, vegetable fats, that is going to coke up the inside of these things and going to render them useless. Now, I've put some videos in the description below. Some guys have been using all kinds of stuff. One in particular, for 3 years running, it coked out. So they were able to take it apart and completely clean the inside of it, and it was working fine again. So these are obviously tried and tested. There's loads of people using these, and I was absolutely blown away. So now I've finally joined the club. Right, believe it or not, we are experiencing right now a power outage. And it's at this moment I realise how fortunate I am to have one of these. The most ironic part about this is I've just received the new transformer to turn the 240 volt into 12 volt electricity. This is 300 watts, so more than enough power to power this thing. But what I specifically have planned for this, which is different to anyone else you might have seen, is that I plan on making a steam turbine generator to recharge the thing, so I can actually use my wood stove to generate electricity. At least that's the idea. We'll see how I get on. Anyway, let me know if there's anything else that you would like to see me review, because I'll do a follow-up on this, definitely. And so if you want to see more, please do subscribe.
This wood is properly kiln dried, and even though I was cutting it perfectly straight, got to the end of a cut and there was so much stress, I'll show you what happened. So this is actually pretty interesting. Walnut tends to be under a lot of stress when you're cutting especially big pieces off of it, and you can see this board is pretty warped right now, and it was under so much stress that it actually cracked all the way through. And I don't think it's actually a big deal for this project, because it looks like this board should still be fine, but it's pretty common. You'll cut these boards and they'll instantly bow on you, and this one was trying to bow so hard it actually split right through the wood. Now, it's worth mentioning, I am doing this the hard way. I am going through every single step of the jointing and the ripping and the planing, because I have all those tools. I have the jointer, I have the planer, and I have a job as a woodworking YouTuber. So if you don't have a jointer, a planer, or a job as a woodworking YouTuber, let me tell you the secret to doing this the easy way is you call your local lumber supplier and you ask for S4S, and that means it's sanded on 4 sides. So you give them the dimensions and they will cut all of these planks at the perfect thickness and the perfect width, all jointed and ready to use. I have a friend that has a big woodworking shop and he does not mess with jointing and planing anymore. He goes straight into the big panel glue-ups with the S4S lumber, which is the real secret to doing this the easy way. Speaking of doing things the easy versus the hard way, let's say instead of a solid wood door, you want to do a big resin door or maybe just make a big epoxy table. There's a couple of ways you can go about it, and there's the easy way and the hard way. And the first way, the hard way, the way I learned, is by making a ton of mistakes. And those mistakes cost me thousands of dollars and probably hundreds of hours. But eventually I figured everything out, and that's a totally viable option if you want to go that route. If you want to go the easy route, you could take my virtual epoxy workshop, which is about a 3.5 hour long masterclass format on how to build a wood and epoxy table, or even a wood and epoxy barn door if you want to go that route. It is every single step and every horrible, expensive mistake I've made over the years building my, I don't know, maybe 50 to 80 epoxy tables over the years. So we are running the biggest promotion of the year right now. There's a link in the description if you want more info on that. Something I'm incredibly proud of, and I am getting comments from people every day saying that so I did it in 2 smaller panels, brought it together to make one big one, let it set for about 24 hours before taking it out of the clamps. Even though this piece was really pretty flat coming right out of the clamps, I only live about 30 minutes or so from this big industrial shop in Portland called Creative Woodworking Northwest, and they are a really nice bunch of guys, and for $75, they will rent out basically any tool in their shop with an employee. So instead of flattening this by hand, I'm taking it, running it through their wide belt sander, and this thing has a planer and 2 wide belts attached to it. It sands it at, I think, 80 and 120, and you can even ask them and they'll put on like a 180 grip belt, so it comes off very, very nice. And that only took about 6 or 7 minutes, so after that, I had enough time on that 30 minutes to take it over to their sliding table saw and get it squared up. And yes, I could have totally done this at home with my own circular saw, but I had access to this. I'd already paid for the time, and that's Mark there. He is great. He's always awesome at helping me out. So he got this thing perfectly squared up for me, all in less than 30 minutes. For years, people were asking me, how do I find a big commercial shop like this, or maybe even just a small commercial shop? I just need a guy with a decent sized garage and some tools to help me out with the project. How do I find that near me? So eventually I made that website. It's called makerbook.io. It's not a moneymaker for me. It's just a small token, a way that I can give something back to this community that has been so great to me. I believe we are represented on every continent now. I'm not positive about South America, but I'm pretty sure we're on every other continent except for Antarctica. We have, every state is represented now too, so there's a really good chance that you can find either a big or a small shop near you on that makerbook.io. And if you want to thank me for it, I don't do things like Patreon, but all I would ask is, if you like this video, if you want to see more videos like it, it would mean a lot to me if you hit that subscribe button. And if you want even more content from me, I started a second channel, Blacktail Studio 2.0. I know that everybody now does Blacktail Studio Plus or something like that, and this, as I'm told, is a little bit 90s, but it is Blacktail Studio 2.0. It's going to be where all my how-to videos are, probably some shorts, probably where I'll do my lives, just a place where I can post content and not have to worry about the algorithm. So would love it if you subscribe to this channel, and if you really want to, Blacktail Studio 2.0. There's a link to it in the description. I was really on the fence about whether or not this door needed C channels. Eventually, I decided just to err on the side of caution because I don't think they really take anything away from it. You'll never see them. And here is the hardware. It's by a company called Milcasa. And I promise this isn't sponsored. And if you still don't believe me, I bet you will once you hear what I have to say about them. So yeah, there's no instructions. So I do get the wheels will support the weight. So I'm not that worried about supporting it. And there's no instructions. Did I mention that? All right, here's another video, but not a lot of info. This doesn't even look like my hardware. Look at my laptop. And it kind of looks like an algebra problem. L equals B plus X plus 6 and 11/16. H equals Y minus 3/8 of an inch plus 2 and 3/8 of an inch. There's a lot of really good renderings, but there's not many actual photos, which is always concerning. Like maybe this just works good in theory. I don't know what to do. I'd originally considered reaching out to that company that makes that hidden barn door hardware to see if they wanted to sponsor this video, and probably could have got a few $1,000s anyway, but then I considered they may not like me calling their instructions an algebra problem and continuing to mock their product throughout this video, so I opted not to reach out to them, and now I can say whatever I want. I have to tell you, since I haven't really been taking outside sponsors recently, it is absolutely liberating to be able to say whatever you want. It's like quitting your job. Although I've already quit my job, so it's like quitting my job again. That feeling when your boss can no longer tell you what to do is fantastic, and it's really the best thing for you guys too, because now you'll get the ultimate in honest feedback because I'm not beholden to anybody. So I will tell you how I feel about all the tools and the products in this video and really every video. And if I don't like it, I'll tell you, but I will tell you where you can get anything in this video is in the video description, like this Festool router and that funny little mortise track thing. That's in the video description, along with that sliding barn door hardware. All of that said, I don't hate this hidden hardware at all. In fact, the end result is incredible and exactly what I was hoping for. It was just a lot of work to get there. Little things like cutting this wheel recess to make sure it fit in there just right would be pretty intimidating to your average weekend warrior DIYer. It's really not that hard. All I did was trace it with a marking knife, came through with my router, hollowed out most of it, and then came back with some chisels and cleaned it up. So step by step, it's not terrible, but yes, this isn't just a turnkey kit that you can bolt onto any old hollow core door. That said, hollow core doors would be way, way easier than this behemoth that I'm building here. So if you do want to try this in your house, try getting just a standard door from Home Depot and adapting the kit that way. One of the things I hated from the instructions that I was finally able to find online is you were supposed to make a cut all the way through the back of the table, and then this kit comes with these little plastic caps that you put on that I thought looked ridiculous and really defeated the purpose of having hidden hardware. So I kind of had to wing this part of it myself and come up with a way to leave the continuous wood grain on the sides and still allow for this hardware to fit in the back. And so what I did, cut a giant notch with my router, leaving just over a 1/4 inch on each end. The next thing I needed to do is get that aluminum channel cut to fit just inside of that notch, and I am far from a metal worker, but I really enjoy this metal saw. It's one of the few dedicated metal tools that I own, and I got it cut just underneath the size of that notch, so it will allow for some seasonal wood movement of that wood slab. Just another reason why I highly recommend going a hollow core door instead of something like this big solid wood door, and also just found out that these are soft close, which is pretty exciting, so didn't even know that when I ordered this kit. In my last video, I launched my first ever tool, and that was that little brass hammer that you see there that was a collaboration with Hoffman Blacksmithing and DFM Toolworks, and I was overwhelmed by the response. We ended up selling out in just over a week, so thank you so much to everybody that purchased one of those, and if you are interested, we will be doing another limited run, but it probably won't be till after the holidays. At this point, I was starting to feel a little more confident that I might be able to actually pull this off, and I noticed a small crack on the end grain there, so I almost wanted just to put a little epoxy in it and call it good, but the last thing I wanted was to have this up and finished inside my house and have that crack spread. So spent a little bit of time, probably about an hour in all, made a miniature little bow tie that probably wasn't the greatest bow tie I've ever made, cut a recess, got that in there, and that will ensure that crack doesn't get any bigger in the future. In my last video, I took a large, clean, single slab of walnut with nice, straight, continuous grain, and I filled it with a bunch of contrasting, highly figured patches of walnut in kind of a weird Tetris quilt pattern with just these little patches all over it, and I was met with fairly mixed results. I knew a lot of people wouldn't like it, but I don't know if anybody disliked it more than my wife, and I'm not faulting anybody for not liking a particular style, because it is definitely a very particular style, but it is really the opposite of what the obsessive-compulsive people like. The people that like nice, neat order, it's the worst thing for them because it's basically disorder. And this one here, I had this kind of ugly, big knot hole, and I wanted to patch it, but I had to be very conscious of doing something my wife would notice. So instead of a square patch, I went and I found some curved grain, and I tried to line it up the best I could, and I really, really didn't want her to see this because she hates that patchwork so much. So I took my time, made this as nice as I could. Just lining that grain up took me over an hour. So we will see if she notices this. I also intentionally put this at the very bottom of the table where I don't think she'll be able to see it. In my last video, I asked if anybody had any suggestions for what I should call that patchwork table that sounded a little bit cooler than patchwork, and in a previous video, someone had named the table the Dolly table, the Salvador Dolly table, and I thought that was pretty clever, and I had a guy, Benici was the first person to come up with this. He suggested calling it the Picasso table because of his Cubism movement, and I thought that was really fitting with the patchwork, but I didn't want to call it the Picasso table. It sounds too boastful. It sounds like I'm saying I'm like Picasso, and I don't want to get shoehorned into that, me naming my pieces after famous artists that would probably hate my work. So my favorite name, it wasn't the most unique one, was the glitch table, because it really did just look like a computer glitch, and I think the first person to say that was named Frosty. I also looked, and there was 208 other people that came up with the same glitch title, but I love it. I think it was perfect. I had a ton of other great suggestions. I had a lot of people suggest Patch Adams, and they said, hey, you should name it that for Robin Williams, not the actual doctor who was named Patch Adams. So I thought that was kind of funny, but thanks to everybody for the great suggestions. This one isn't cool enough to merit a name, so no need to give any suggestions on this barn door. At this point, I felt like I was really, really close. All of the hardware is installed, all of it fits nicely, but before I actually add the finish to this, I want to make sure the hardware functions, because I've never used this before. I don't even know if this is going to work, and I did find those instructions online. I made these measurements to the letter. I have a perfect outline of the mounting plate there, and these anchors, they came with the kit, so I just had to get those installed. I do have a tip for you is, if you're drilling into a hollow wall and there's not a stud there, you get resistance, probably stop. I didn't do that, and I'll show you what happens when you do that, but got the anchors installed. I was actually pretty confident. I was joking around with Scott when we were doing this, but I thought this was going to be kind of a one and done, and I got it mounted. Again, this is all the hardware that came with it. There's not a lot of weight that actually rests on that, so I know it seems like those anchors aren't a good idea, but again, they're part of the kit, but it just didn't work. It was way off. It was binding. It would barely roll. Pretty frustrated, and I'm really playing this down because I spent a long time troubleshooting this, and eventually what I figured out is those anchors, because I remounted them an additional time, so I had made too many holes, so I had to patch that. It wasn't going to work, and cut it out. I was going to patch it with some more drywall or maybe even a piece of plywood. Found this. My first thought was that I drilled into a gas line, and even though I didn't smell gas, I was terrified we were all going to be blown up, so I got on the phone, made some calls, luckily got some good news. I didn't know you're still in here. Good news though, is you can be in here. It's not a gas line. We've got a couple things to check, but important thing is it's not a gas line. I am terrified of round tubes in my walls in general, and especially when they have holes in them, but I was relieved to find out it was a vent line for our downstairs bathroom, which was a pretty easy fix, and I can move on to actually fixing this door. And one of the things I figured out was my floor wasn't perfectly level. These instructions said that the floor needed to be perfectly level, and I was like, oh, how do I re-level my concrete floor? So instead of re-leveling that, I added some playing card shims under one wheel at the proper amount of the proper count of cards, and it actually worked. It shimmed everything up, and I was finally ready to add the finish. The finish technique that I'm using here is the exact same that I used on that glitch desk in my last video, where I took 50% Rubio Monaco Walnut and I diluted it with 50% of the Rubio Monaco Pure just to make it a little less aggressive. Since I'm using actual walnut here and I don't need it to be any darker, I just want to kind of homogenize all of the colors, and the wood I'm using, I should have mentioned, is steamed walnut, and generally I hate steamed walnut. It really mutes the colors, but what it does is what they would do for like hardwood floors to make them all essentially the same color is when you steam it, you really blend that sapwood, the edge of the wood, that lighter wood, with the dark wood, and it makes it more uniform. So I'm using steamed walnut along with the stain to make sure all of the colors are pretty consistent. I will admit, one of my concerns, one of the reasons I'm using this stain, is to make sure that patch on the front blends in and my wife doesn't see it. And I want to strangle anybody who says happy wife, happy life, and they say that's the key to marriage. Those people are losers. Don't listen to them. The key to marriage is this: make them think it's their idea. That is the best advice I ever got, and the best advice anybody can give anybody. But I made a mistake. I did not preload this project by making her think it was her idea. This is entirely my idea, so I have to do it perfectly, otherwise she is not going to be happy because the design likely won't be exactly what she had in store. So at the very least, you need to hide that patch, blend the colors, make it nice and uniform. My solution for mounting that bracket directly in front of the pipe was to take a piece of plywood that spanned 2 studs, screw that in, and this would enable me to use some heavy-duty wood screws on that bracket that were short enough that wouldn't go into the pipe. However, patching this drywall, this made me more nervous than any other aspect of the project, because I'm not great with drywall, I'm just okay, and I've told my wife that this isn't a practice house. If I can't do something as good or better than a professional, I'll hire it out, and I think that's a good policy to have at this point in my life. But I had to call my friend, he gave me a bunch of pointers, and in the end, I freaking nailed it. I'll show you some shots of this drywall. I did a better job on this than the door. You probably noticed that this door doesn't have a handle, and that's by design, because I wanted a really clean, minimalist look, but what else that means is it is going to get a ton of filthy, grubby hands all over it, and most of those filthy, grubby hands are going to be coming from me, and I know just how filthy they are. So to protect this finish from the commercial cleaners and the grubby hands, I'm using the new Blacktail Studio N3 nano coating, and this is basically an invisible layer that bumps up the sheen, bumps up the contrast, but it also bumps the protection up. I have done so many tests with this, and it is absolutely incredible. It is so much better than anything else I have used. It is a product that I could not be more proud to be a part of, and it's not for sale today as of the time I'm doing this voiceover, but it should be shipping mid to late December of 2022. So if you want to be on a wait list for that, or if you want to know all the details of this Blacktail Studio M3, I'll leave a link to get on the email list for that in the video description. So bad news, I didn't quite get the door done on time, and Ilana got home the night before at about 1 a.m., walked by this, and was aware we did not have a pantry door. I didn't think it was a huge deal, but apparently we're having 30 people show up in about 3 hours, and if you don't know, you must have a pantry door to host a baby shower. So called Scott, scrambled, got this done, got the hidden camera set up, got it dialed in, and just barely made it in time for Ilana.
Hey babe!
Hey babe!
What you doing?
Your game?
Excellent. Look at what I got.
You got something else?
What?
We got something else.
It is so good. I can't believe you got it done in time.
We got it done in time.
Am I allowed to touch it?
You are allowed to touch it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, get a little harder. It is heavy.
It is a little heavy, but I wasn't going to say anything.
Careful. Oh.
Wait, soft poster?
Okay, we don't mess around here.
Oh my god.
So in theory, I don't want to tell you this. It's like a blanket statement. You can't slam it too hard.
Why are you moving me? Are you recording this?
I would never record you again without you knowing.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay, it's a little hard to push open, but I love it.
I think we'll get used to that.
It's like...
see?
Oh yeah, that's fancy.
Not too bad.
I love it, I love it.
What do you think, buddy?
What do you think, sweet boy? What do you think? Oh. What is that?
What's what?
Uh-oh. Well, I mean, do you see it? Was I not supposed to say anything about that?
I am going to call that a mission accomplished for getting a door done in time for a baby shower, and a mission failed for making a patch so clean even my wife with OCD doesn't notice it. But here are some reveal shots along with a shot of that drywall that I did such an amazing job on. And I would like to know where you guys stand on this new modern door versus the old style hardware. So every week I like to give a little bit of credit to people who make it all the way to the end of the video. So this week, start your question or comment with either old hardware or no hardware to let me know where you stand.
I did it again. I made you believe
that wasn't just friends.
Oh baby,
I need love. Yeah. I did it again. Oh my! Come on! I told you. I got your mail.
All right, guys, looks like we're gonna be building a new mailbox. And this one, I wanna make it out of metal so it can be strong and withstand the lunatic that's my mail delivery driver. I started off with a sheet of 11 gauge steel, and my plan is actually to bend all those sides into shape to limit the amount of welding I have to do. So I started off by scoring a line with a grinding disc and then grinding a groove into it to make the folding of it much easier. Now, I've seen this done by Mike Montgomery from Modern Builds on one of his previous projects, and I figured I'd give it a try. So I clamped a piece of angle iron to my bench and started bending. Okay, it's going, but it needs some more leverage. How do I leverage it more? Well, that didn't work as well as I thought it would actually work. Pretty sure that you could totally make this work by grinding a lot more into the groove, but I'm just impatient. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut, weld, and make sure that, make sure we're square, because I think it might be very difficult to get 4 bends in this thing that are all square, or 3 in this case, right? Yeah, 3. Just like before, I scored a line up against the angle iron as reference, and then cut all the panels out with my grinder. Now, if you're wondering what the dimensions and angles on all these panels are, you can get all that information over on my website. I'm putting out a free set of plans for you guys, or you can just click in the description below and it'll just take you right to the download. Totally gonna work. And to hold them in place, I'm using these 90-degree magnets. They're super strong and they give you a perfect angle. To start assembling this thing, I lined the bottom and one of the side panels up to each other and started tacking the sucker up. For now, I'm just tacking all these pieces together and making sure that it's square along the way because that's fairly important for this project, and then I can move on to the actual welding. With that box all welded up and all the joints ground down, I can start working on the frame. For the frame, I'm using a 1x1 angle iron. And I cut 2 of every piece, but the mirror image of themselves. And then I can start tacking all of them together one piece at a time. For the base, I'm using a 1x2 angle iron, and that 2 section is going to be sitting on the ground. That way, it's going to provide a little bit more stability and give me a little bit more room to drill some bolt holes later on. And you can actually see here that I cut notches into that base, and my thinking behind it is that it's better to have 3 connection points versus just 1 when connecting that frame to the base. All right, guys, so I got this thing all tacked up. It's just standing there, and I'm afraid to touch it because it's probably gonna fall. But I made an executive decision, and I don't know how it's gonna kind of work. I was gonna do wood and epoxy in the base, kind of like a river table almost. Don't. We're gonna 86 that idea. I think that just might be a little bit too much going on, so I'm just thinking, we just do live edge with nothing in the middle, right? And I think that's gonna look really cool. I don't know. I have a picture in my head. I just don't know if it's gonna kind of come through in the finished project. But first, we need to actually weld this thing up so it doesn't fall on me. So cue that dope music. With the frame all done, let's move on to playing with some beautiful wood. Now this is willow, and I've never worked with it before, and I just couldn't wait to cut into it to see what it looked like underneath all that grime. So after breaking it down, I took it over to my new big boy bandsaw. This black beauty is made by Harvey Industries, and it packs a whopping 3 horsepower with a cut height of 14 inches, which pretty much can handle anything in my shop. It has changed the workflow in my shop, but more importantly, it's changed the way I think about projects or the inability to get things done. So having this machine in the shop is a huge upgrade. After flattening the smaller pieces on my planer, I had to pull out my router sled for larger sections. Now originally the slab was 3.5 inches thick, but it had a significant twist to it. I was able to get some of that twist out after cutting it into pieces, but I still had to take about 1/2 inch off from the entire thing to get it nice and flat. But once I did, I was able to start cleaning it off and get it ready for final mock-up. Once I was happy with the way it looked, I can mark the locations for my bolts that will hold the entire thing together and drill the holes over at my drill press. The bolts are your standard 1/4 inch by 1.25 inch lag bolts, and I just did not like the way the hex head looked on this project, so I decided to make them look a little bit more like rivets by chucking them in my drill and rounding them over on my sharpening wheel. And I'm so glad I did because they look great, and now I can start working on the finishing process of the wood by sealing it first with a sealer from Totalboat, the sponsor of this build. Totalboat has been a longtime supporter of the channel, and I'm going to be using everything from their epoxies to their wood finishes on this project. Now, because this mailbox is going to be outside in the elements, and some of the sections are soft and even started to show some rot, I need to go through a multi-step process to protect it. I first sealed it with their wood sealer, pretty much dousing the entire thing, giving it a quick scuffing, and then I can apply their marine spar varnish called Lust. Over the next couple of days, I put down 6 coats of gloss to protect it, and later in this video, I'm going to be applying 1 coat of matte to give it a spectacular finish. It's kind of like a satin looking, but not really. It's hard to explain. You get that matty look, but when the light hits it just right, that gloss comes through a little bit, and it's not like any other finish. It's not satin, it's not matte, it's not semi-gloss. It's its own thing, and I absolutely love it. And I've been putting it on all of my exterior projects for a couple of years now, and it has never failed me. So thank you to Total Bolt for making awesome products and supporting what I do. Now let's put a door on this thing. What I'm trying to do is actually set a door in here, and I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but I did get a cool hinge. So this is like a S-shaped hinge where I can mount this to the underside of our mailbox and hopefully be able to secure the wood. Call it a 1/2-inch door. So now we gotta find a cool piece of wood to match the rest of the cool wood. This piece is a cutoff from the same willow slab, and after cutting it in half and book matching it, I noticed something really cool. It looked like Batman, or an owl, depending on how you squint your eyes, so I'm gonna go with it. I glued both halves together and cut it down to size at the miter saw before cleaning it up on the planer. Unfortunately, that part that looks like an eye and was filled with bark previously, well, that got knocked out during the planing process. And if I were just to leave a void there and pour epoxy into it, it would just be black and not match the other eye. So I decided to fill that eye back up with some leftover bark. I just used CA glue to hold it in place, and we're back in business. Once the epoxy flows through all those crevices and voids in that eye, you won't even know it's not original. And for the epoxy, I'm using Total Bolt's Thick Set. It's pretty much the only epoxy that I use for pours like this. And the instructions say you can pour up to 1 inch thick. And I've done a little bit more, but just follow the instructions. Don't go saying that Bart said you could pour up to 14 inches thick, because it won't. So just follow the instructions, but this 3/4 inch pour is no sweat for it. So while that epoxy sets up, I gave this willow a quick scuffing and got to applying that final coat of Lust in a matte. And it being the last coat, we gotta make it look cool. With the epoxy now set, I can pop it out of the form and start the flattening process. For most small projects, I typically run it through the planer, but I was afraid of chipping something out and ruining this entire thing. So I flattened it on my CNC, and for me, that was a first, and it just kept clogging the vacuum port, and it was pretty aggravating for me. So next time, I think I'm gonna go back to the planer and save the CNC for carving. After sizing the door and making sure that it fit in a box, I took it over to the bandsaw and resawed it down to a 1/2 inch thick. I gave it a quick sanding up to 600 grit, and I can start drilling the holes for the threaded inserts. And when threading the inserts, I always use the screws that they come with and then back them out. I find that those little notches, the flathead notches that the inserts have on them, always tend to strip out for me because the brass is very soft. And by using the screw, I never have that issue. Then I can weld the S-shaped bracket onto the bottom of the mailbox and secure the door using those same screws. Next, I can start working on the little mail flag. It's made out of the same 11 gauge metal as the box and secured in place with a nut and bolt and a compressor washer in between so that it has the ability to go up and down. And in front of it, I welded in a small bead to act as a flag stop. Because there was so much grinding involved, it exposed the fresh metal on the corners. And I didn't want to paint this box, so I decided we're gonna blue it and distress it to keep that industrial look. I first cleaned the entire thing with denatured alcohol and then sprayed on a product by CNC, and for me, that was a first, and it just kept clogging the vacuum port process. And if I were just to leave a void there and glue to hold it in place, and we're back in business. Once the epoxy flows through all those crevices, and voids in that eye, you won't even know it's not original. And for the epoxy, I'm using Toto Boat's Thick Set. It's pretty much the only epoxy that I use for pours like this. And the instructions say you can pour up to 1 inch thick. And I've done a little bit more, but just follow the instructions. Don't go. With the epoxy now set, I can pop it out of the form and start the flattening process. For most small projects, I typically run it through the planer, but I was afraid of chipping something out and ruining this entire thing. So I flattened it on my CNC, and for me, that was a first. And after sizing the door and making sure that it fit in the box, I took it over to the bandsaw and resawed it down to 1/2 inch thick. I gave it a quick sanding up to 600 grit, and I can start drilling the holes for the threaded inserts. And when threading the inserts, I always use the screws that they come with and then back them out. I find that those little notches, the flathead notches that the inserts have on them, always tend to strip out for me because the brass is very soft. And by using the screw, I never have that issue. Then I can weld the S-shaped bracket onto the bottom of the mailbox and secure the door using those same screws. Always tend to strip threaded inserts. And when threading the inserts, I always use the screws that they come with and then back them out. I find that those little notches, the flathead notches that are drilling the... After sizing the door and making sure that it fit in the box, I took it over to the bandsaw and resawed it down to 1/2 inch thick. I gave it a quick sanding up to 600 grit, and I can start drilling the holes for the threaded inserts. And when threading the inserts, I always use the screws that they come with and then back them out. I find that those little notches, the flathead notches that the inserts have on them, always tend to strip out for me because the brass is very soft. And by using the screw, I never have that issue. Then I can weld the S-shaped bracket onto the bottom of the mailbox and secure the door using those same screws. Next, I can start working on the little mail flag. It's made out of the same 11 gauge metal as the box and secured in place with a nut and bolt and a compressor washer in between so that it has the ability to go up and down. And in front of it, I welded in a small bead to act as a flag stop. Because there was so much grinding involved, it exposed the fresh metal on the corners. And I didn't want to paint this box, so I decided we're going to blue it and distress it to keep that industrial look. I first cleaned the entire thing with denatured alcohol and then sprayed on a product called PC9. You can see here that it turns black instantly. So I sprayed it on the exposed parts first and just started working around with a Scotch-Brite pad until the entire box was covered. Then, once I was happy with the way it looked, I hit it with a heat torch to evaporate it and finished it with boiled linseed oil. I worked it in small sections, heating up the steel, and you can actually see it turning a little bit white in certain areas at first, but once that oil hits it, it looks like it's never had any grinding done to it whatsoever. Then with some steel wool, I scratched the corners to remove some of that bluing, and it gave it that distressed look. And to match the hardware, I just dipped it into the solution, and you can see how quickly it reacts. Then I distressed them a bit with a Scotch-Brite pad again, and dropped them into oil before assembling the entire thing. Alright, because the old mailbox was on a post in the ground, and I designed this one to be